Hello everyone, and welcome to Fleet's Random Ramblings number 69. Yes, I'm aware, it is Le Funny number. You may laugh uproariously at your own discretion, as and when you may deem it appropriate. Because yes, it is Le Funny number, and Le Funny number is, well, funny. Always has been. Always will be. Because it is Le Funny number. Yeah, there it is. I was waiting for someone to say it. There's the obligatory nice from Montana. There it is. There it is. Hey, 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 hey. There it is. Way, as they say. Apologies for the late start today. I got stuck in traffic. Boxed in between two accidents. That was not fun. That was, in fact, not fun. Hello, Cello Discord. Welcome to Fleet's Random Ramblings. Nope, that's the wrong one. That's the right one. There we go. Hey. So yes, Fleet's Random Ramblings 69. Yes, it is Le Funny number. You may all laugh uproariously. Oh,
also,
good.
hello, Fleet.
Bloody hell! I thought you weren't going to be here today.
I did too, and then while I'll spare you the details, I ate some leftovers that were probably not too good to eat last night. So I didn't get enough sleep to go into work.
Also, Cyclic.
I didn't realize at the time.
Also, I am going to get bullied for this because it is the Ramblings has reached Le Funny number.
Okay.
I don't know why someone will bully you for that. Honestly, I don't think any one of us would have meant.
Yeah, I mean,
it is.
Had you not drawn any attention to it?
I am of course joking. I don't mind. It is of course Le Funny number. So
but of course, it's
but like you drew the attention
to
it, so now you get bullied.
I know. I don't mind. It's why I did it because it gives nice content. It's funny. It's Le Funny. Yes, it is.
Does it?
It is Le Funny.
Does it?
Okay.
Look. People come here for the funny occasion.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, we have some Patreon questions to get through. And once they are done, we can get on to the main MacGuffins. So, first things first. Obviously, we have Timu Locker has asked to wait until Dr. Clock shows up. So that will be honoured. Brandon Larson asks, if you, the panel, could go back to any time period in all of history and live there for the rest of your life, what would you each choose and why? The problem is that we've never had it so good, and to go back in time would just be giving up.
Well, I don't think you have a choice here.
But... honestly, I'd go back to the 60s and backpack around.
Well,
America.
It says if you could.
Oh,
I would not want to go back to the 60s. Ugh.
No, yeah, apparently no. You do. Apparently, yeah. You are being enforced to a degree. You just get to choose what period.
Yeah, 1960s in America during the hippie era. That as a Brit backpacking.
No, you don't, Fleet. You do not want
that.
1960s U.S. America is ripping itself apart internally.
Oh yeah, that's funny.
I would probably choose early 1900s Britain. Because I could have some good conversations with people.
I just go back to the year I was born and leave it at that.
Yeah, honestly, that
like
would probably,
Fleet. As soon as you can find the right people, it wouldn't be too hard to necessarily live a reasonably comfortable life.
I got stuck in traffic.
Like, also keep in mind, if we have our knowledge, then potentially there's definitely stuff that could be set up.
Well, yeah, no, for not doing any antiquity.
Right, why would I want to go to antiquity? Because antiquity isn't good.
I just go back to the 1990s, start working a job. Note when Apple comes around, invest some money into that, and then laugh all the way to the bank.
Yes, buy all the stonks. In Apple. Yeah,
Buy Apple, buy Amazon,
that
stock,
that is a great,
laugh all the way to the bank.
Yeah, you know what? That is, that is just, you know what, cycling, that is.
Yeah, it's not bad.
And and like, here's the thing. So long as I don't go take a job that puts me in the Pentagon or the World Trade Centers, I'm fine.
Yeah, honestly.
And don't get on and deliberately don't take a flight on December or September 11th.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Don't do that.
Oh, hey, we've got another guest.
Oh, it is the Phoenix. The Fee of the Knicks. The Knicks of the Fee. All of them things. Words in that order.
Exactly.
The Fiend of the Knicks. Well, there's
Hello,
something
Dino.
I'm going to use against him in the future.
Oh, dear God.
I'll just reference the image that's in shitposting on my server.
Hang on, which
So-
one is... Oh,
You
is
know
this-
which one.
Yes,
Ah!
we will be...
Gatso.
We will be definitely starting with questions, so I will take the first one from YouTube. Chandler, Fleet, hello Fleet, have you tried the really nice vanilla rework mod or related Kaiser rework for Hearts of Iron 4? Yes, we don't play without it. Both on the server and during the Fleet Sunday streaming Hoi 4 streams, I was literally playing with it yesterday.
What do you mean by vanilla rework mod?
The Vanilla Navy rework. That's what he means.
I've got to paint something here. What do you
I'm
want?
hoping that's what they mean, but
I am not.
that might not be what they mean.
Because he also mentions a Kaiserreich rework mod, which very much narrows it down. There's only one mod that's basically the same across both versions, and that is the Naval rework mod. So,
You can get some utterly broken stuff with it, but it is reasonable.
Paint something here. What do you want?
What? I didn't summon you.
You did.
No,
You
I
you pinged me.
No, I didn't.
Did?
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
You literally pinged your seal
Yeah,
of approval,
you
which
did.
apparently
Yeah,
I
you
have.
did
Why
actually
am I
ping
here?
seal of approval.
Did I? Oh shit. Well, whoops. Oh well.
Of
that-
which I have.
yeah,
I'm
Oh,
trying to
my
follow
God.
along with a Bob
App's
Ross guitar.
forehead.
You didn't have to come. Pings aren't mandatory summons, you know.
no, yeah, but normally if you ping someone, normally
Wile E.
attention.
Coyote. Super genius.
Honestly, you know what? I find myself referencing that more and more as my life goes on. Just fucking. I'm like.
oh no.
I'm like.
Hello.
I'm like. I am
What are
literally.
Oni doing here?
Hello, HUD.
I am literally turning into
I see
Wile E.
you're in
Coyote.
A wild hood
Let's
has
go back to
appeared.
my Bob Ross thing.
As I say, what's Oni doing here?
What's the Office of Naval Intelligence doing here?
I mean, the ping in my
Like-
Discord is. I mean, I didn't really forget the ping, Timu, because everyone who's in my Discord is also in the dry dock. So.
Still a good habit to get into.
Like I'm
Yeah.
6 minutes deep into a 27-minute tutorial, but I'm really enjoying myself right now. I'm in the groove.
Like, I'm waiting for the big announcement. I should probably ping the YouTube video, to be fair, but.
So that's what you mean by your voice is F. I assumed that's what you might have meant,
Well,
but
can't go back.
I didn't know if it might have been something else.
I'm not perfect. What do you people want from me? Consistency? Well, good luck.
Yes, like actually, yes. Your communication officers have requested this from you multiple times.
Why do you think
Man.
I'm retiring?
This is your show. You're retiring. Oh, thank fuck. Okay, good.
That you heard it here, folks. Last ramblings.
Right.
No,
Not quite last.
Retiring? Oh,
Yeah.
He said he's retiring.
No, oh come on! You all know. You've all been privy to this information for ages. Don't try and
Been a good
pull
one.
a fast one.
Given
been a
it
good
is a
run,
funny
boys.
number, that would be the perfect time to retire.
No, the it's either
was nice
it's,
knowing
it's
you,
either the 4-year anniversary or the 100th Ramblings,
You could just
whichever
sail off into the sunset.
whichever comes first. I literally handed in my official letting Drac know what's going down today. So that's
You're
official
resigning.
now.
Awesome.
Yes, you know this. I have not been hiding it.
I thought you had already submitted that.
I wanted to get into the new year before we actually submitted it, and I actually have been vacillating over writing it for a while.
Yeah.
HUD.
Yep, Hood. That is a good shout.
Yeah.
Yeet. Salute.
That not pleasant, Hood. I'm probably not going to have fun with that soon because at some point I'll be starting work, and front of house is not fun for having to.
At the same time, though, you can just prioritize work, and you can just let the whole show die. It's not your responsibility.
Zubikaku asks, when it comes to the Nagato class, Fuso class, Issei class, and Kongo class, could you technically mount pedestal-mounted twin 12cm or 10cm guns in casemate indentations for stronger heavy AA?
Not there. Not there.
Casemates.
Those aren't casemates, one, but two, like
Oh, I see.
those mounts will be utterly destroyed by wave action.
Yeah, I think what they mean is remove the casemates, put the pedestals where the casemates should be.
That's what that is. That's what that is.
Yeah,
That's what they've
yes,
done.
but have you put it? Yes, but do others know that fleet?
I'm just.
Can others see that?
I am doing it. I'm doing it.
Doesn't look that way on the stream, but maybe it hasn't caught up yet.
Yes,
It hasn't yet.
It
but-
takes me a
Hello,
little bit of
Stephen.
time.
But yeah, no, those would be
Congratulations!
bad.
Congratulations! Your entire mount and the crew in it have been lost due to a wave. Bye.
Right, well, if
I'm
excuse
sure
me,
it'll do
going to go have
perfectly
some
fine
more
in a
happy little
typhoon.
accidents.
Have fun, Meta.
Will do.
Goodbye, Meta. That man gets more and more insane every time I see him, but I still
Does he?
like him all the same. Yes.
I wouldn't have said so.
I remember when Meta was lovely and calm, and then suddenly it's like someone flicked a switch and the man went to 500%
Like,
brain
what?
power.
They are pretty calm.
Yeah.
Am I the only one
Huh?
who has noticed a change over the years?
Perhaps it's
I
you
wouldn't
who's
say he
changed
was-
over
I
the
wouldn't
years.
Yeah.
say-
In chaos.
I wouldn't also,
yeah,
and I also wouldn't
yes,
say though that he isn't calm. but,
Yes, Knight. I am retiring from my official role in the dry dock as Chief of Communications. I'm retiring from staff after it'll be 7 years.
But to clarify, since he seems to be terrible at saying this, he will still be doing ramblings.
Yes,
he will
I'm-
still be streaming it on YouTube.
Yes.
He will still be doing it on his Discord.
Yes, I am moving
Before
to
before
my
he keeps
Discord.
forgetting things.
I'm moving to my Discord that I set up specifically for that purpose. Anyway, so next question. So I'll leave that image up for a second and then bye. Check the YouTube. Knight 681. If the Royal Navy gets one admiral and Furious is experimental and both courageous under the treaty, how does that cut down on design studies after determining if the admiral or courageous class were the future for aircraft carriers?
You don't get the treaty.
What you mean? Are we getting the admiral specifically as carrier conversion allocations, or
No. They get one admiral as a conversion, Furious as a conversion, and those are classed as their experimental carriers, and the courageous class are their rebuilds. They're assigned under the treaty.
Wait, what was the question?
So, if the Royal Navy gets
Well,
one
I'll just
admiral
put-
and
I'll just copy it
Furious
into the
as
chat.
experimental, and both courageous under
other
the
ships
treaty,
were allowed
how
as
does-
experimentals?
how does that cut down on design studies after determining if the admiral or courageous size carriers were the future aircraft carriers were the way to go? It doesn't cut down on design studies. The thing is,
You can always do design studies.
and also getting an admiral class carrier conversion isn't going to fundamentally rework any of the Royal Navy's thinking. It's like
it might, actually.
it's like me and Dr. Clark said yesterday in Brew Ships. The Americans and the British both arrive at the same thing they want for their carriers, but neither side can have their ideal carrier because treaty size limitations. So the Americans pick what's more important to them, which is, open hangars and the size of the strike
Strike
package, and the British pick what's more important to them, which is protection and heavy AA firepower. And then you see both
Another thing I
sides-
wouldn't. Oh, sorry.
and then you see both sides build their ideal carrier in the Maltas and the Midways at the end of the war. Well, the British
the
didn't get to
Midways
Another
weren't
thing I would
the
note
US's
here-
ideal carrier.
And also, I wouldn't argue the Maltas were necessarily ideal either.
Another thing I would note here is I'm just thinking about this now. If the Brits are getting one of the admirals as an experimental carrier, the Americans and Japanese are probably going to start screaming for one of their battlecruiser carriers to be taken off as not counted as or to be counted as an experimental carrier and not count against the treaty tonnage, because that's a lot of, it's like 40,000 free tons for the British off the bat of a large battlecruiser hull that can easily be refit.
What you more see is the Courageous, one or two of the Courageouses being potentially dropped then.
Well, the problem is that we've literally, the whole point of the question is they get the Courageouses are their rebuild.
Yeah, either the Americans and Japanese are going to get what they want in sort of a proportion to that / equality for the Americans, or there's no treaty. That's a big.
Yeah,
because then also you've still got Eagle and Hermes as well, which are also classed as experimental.
Because the British got away with it in history because you have Courageous, Furious, and Glorious as a trio, and then you have Courageous, so you have Furious, Eagle, and Hermes.
I just don't see how you're getting Furious as experimental.
So, well, she was. Furious, Eagle, and Hermes were experimental, and Courageous and Glorious were not.
Yeah, but I don't see how you're then.
The whole
the conversion.
The whole thing with experimental.
Can you let Dragon speak?
Yeah, I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding about.
Well, let Dragon speak so you can find that out.
Because you've got the original old carriers which were classed as experimentals, which is the very first one. So you've got stuff like Hermes, Eagle, etc. were listed as experimental. Then you had rebuilds / conversions, which were not the same as experimental.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying. These wouldn't be classed.
No.
These wouldn't be classed as experimental.
Furious was absolutely an experimental carrier, as she was historically. Because again, she's part of that early lineage of carriers. Same as Hermes and Eagle.
Not...
She is.
Really?
No, she is. She absolutely is. Returned into a carrier during the First World War. Doesn't receive her flat deck.
Saying she was converted into a carrier during the First World War might be generous.
No.
She was converted into a flying off ship.
No, she was a carrier. No, she was a
Sorry,
carrier.
Which ship did you say again then? Just for
Furious.
Furious. Yeah, no, she wasn't.
Yeah, no, she absolutely was. You can't get around
She
this.
still retained an 18-inch gun.
For about 5 seconds until she got an aft landing platform.
Through 1917.
Yes, that still leaves most of 1918 when she was a full carrier with a flying off platform forward and a landing platform aft. And that still doesn't change the fact that she's still...
The conversion was added in 21.
Not the rear not the rear landing platform. The rear landing platform arrived in 1918.
In July 1918, she finally received the aft one with her main gun turret removed. So even then... she's not really classed.
Can she launch aircraft to conduct strike and cap operations?
When has that ever meant something is classified as a carrier?
So does that mean the Iron Duke class battleships are classed as carriers?
No, but you didn't let me finish. She can also then recover those aircraft after they have conducted their flight operations, service them, and then send them out again. She is a carrier, despite her unconventional nature, and thoroughly fits into the experimental category. The experimental category...
Was she actually listed as the category in the treaty?
Yes, she was. Historically, she was. Because whether...
Actually, yeah, hang on, let me double check that,
because whether a carrier...
Then you might see Furious and Admiral, but I agree with Cyclic, unless you probably get rid of a Courageous. There's not going to be a treaty.
Or
everyone else gets much more stuff, and the Admiralty won't be liking that either.
The US is going to turn around and we get a third Lexington carrier.
Yeah,
and then the Admiralty's going, what do we have?
Yeah, thing is, the important thing to remember is that...
So let me give you... So Argus, Eagle, Furious, Hermes, Langley, Hosho were all declared experimental carriers.
Thank you.
And could be replaced without regard to their age and did not count against the treaty limits.
Thank you.
That's why I was asking. That's why I was trying to get actual proper clarification on it. But
a little bit of confidence in Fleet, please.
Fleet did say multiple times that it was in the treaty counted as an experimental carrier. I was just trying to verify that, but
yeah, that's what I was wanting. It was the verification. But also, again, you're not getting both Courageous probably then. If then the Japanese and Americans do get another carrier discounted, the Admiralty will be going, well, held up. You've now got 3 potentially 40,000 ton carriers. We've got one 40,000-ton carrier, and then two or three 20,000s.
The thing
Then
that,
they'll be going. There's a tonnage difference still here. No one will be happy.
The thing that is important to remember is that you're basically the only change in what the question says between historical and not is that Admiral class carrier.
Which is
yeah,
significant.
which is what we're talking about, Fleet.
No, I was going somewhere.
Go on.
Which means that we need to decide if that vessel is so the question is that Hood? Do the British have Hood, or was Hood never completed? And that because in order for that Admiral class carrier to be converted in time for it to qualify for the experimental moniker, which a carrier has to be in service in order to qualify for the experimental moniker. Basically, it has to be in service at the time of Washington. Or
It's 12 November 1921 is the specific date that's given in the treaty.
Yeah.
But
So,
far too
the other
far
thing-
along to convert.
The problem is then they can't get an admiral as experimental then. It's either the Royal Navy commits to not completing Hood and converts her into a carrier, or there is no experimental
Hang on a
admiral.
second.
That's the only way they get an experimental admiral class carrier.
No,
No, it is.
no.
No, it is. There is no other. There is no other hull that can be used.
Anson,
that will
Howe,
be-
and Rodney are all suspended 1917, 6 months after they were first laid down.
hang on a second.
It
Okay,
depends.
so I'm just reviewing this now. So just a point of clarification we should probably note. So experimental carriers did actually count against your treaty tonnage for carriers. It's just they could be replaced at any point in time.
Yeah.
That's the key. That's the key thing here. So, for example, if you come by when you're at the time of the first London Naval Treaty in 1930, Hermes, Eagle, Furious still count against the British carrier tonnage, but Argus is written off because she's obsolescent. And same goes with the U.S. for Langley and the Japanese for Hosho. So all three of those ships don't count against the tonnage allowed for those nations, but the experimental carriers are still in there.
So in that case, then
which-
there isn't really a problem because, yes, the Royal Navy.
Yeah,
has a
so
big
you could
carrier.
actually. Yeah, so you could technically, if you had the extra admiral hull lying around, you could convert it. You would just run out of your treaty displacement earlier. So,
Yeah.
because for example, if you're counting, let me go back to the table again real quick. So I'm running between my kitchen and my PC because I'm trying to make myself lunch. So if you're looking at, say, if you have Hermes, Eagle, Furious, Glorious, and Courageous as of 1930, right? Assuming we're just counting Argus, you only have about 34,000 tons left, which means if you have an admiral, that'll take up more than that. So if you have an admiral converted alongside Argus, Eagle, Furious, you're going to probably have to kill Glorious and or Courageous as far as conversions go.
I mean,
for carriers specifically.
So you're not getting all of them one way or another.
I mean, honestly, you're probably gonna see the Admiralty go with, okay, Furious is this weird flying off ship. And she's still not fully cut down. Let's get a pair of identical sister ships, so Courageous and Glorious, because Furious is slightly different in certain ways. So rather than cut her down and convert her like they did historically, in addition to Courageous and Glorious, you'll probably just see Courageous and Glorious with Furious actually bowing out.
When's that stopped the Royal Navy?
Because the
Another thing I would also question
Because
is
they've
if
already gone, sorry, Vince.
I was gonna. I mean, I guess it's kind of the question kind of presupposes that they want to convert an admiral. But to be totally honest, I'm not sure the Royal Navy, if they had the option of keeping two admirals around, would really want to convert one of them into a carrier as opposed to having two large, fast, 15-inch gun capital ships.
Oh yeah,
But-
completely. Yeah. Oh yeah, they want. Yeah, but obviously we're working within the confines of the question asked.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's just a case of
But,
them. Because to be honest, to be fair, the Royal Navy would probably be quite happy with an Admiral class conversion carrier as well, because then now you've got a carrier that keeps up with battle cruisers. Actually, that would be quite.
Yeah, and you have
scary.
much more room for experimentation and growth on a admiral-sized hull than you would with any of the large light cruiser hulls, right?
Yeah. And also, I do kind of see them more wanting to take down Furious, because Furious is already 50% of the way there, effectively, versus Courageous and Glorious, which are 0% of the way there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think you might actually see the oddness of a Furious and Courageous or Furious and Glorious instead of
the problem.
the other.
The problem with that, Dragon, is that in terms of the work you'd have to do to them, the only real difference between Furious and the Courageouses is you would have to, you wouldn't have to.
Well, you've got no gun turrets to remove.
Yeah,
Hello,
but
Clark.
that's basically it.
Oh, this is
Before
perfect.
we go further, can you please restate the question?
It's the
I posted it in chat, actually. Give me a sec, I'll just bring it back up. It is,
Okay.
if the Royal Navy gets one Admiral class and Furious as an experimental
No.
carrier in the treaty... Yeah, and...
They're
No?
reading the question.
Sorry,
Like-
no, sorry, Dragon, that wasn't related to you. It was the boops are back.
Sorry, you just said that...
Sorry, that was a reaction. Keep going, Dragon, keep going.
Okay.
If the Royal Navy gets one Admiral and Furious as experimental and both Courageous as under the naval treaties, how would this cut down on design studies?
Why would they?
If the Admiral or Courageous side carriers would be
The whole thing is the Admirals were considering conversion in 1917, so that'd be before Eagle. So if you'd done the Admiral conversion, which is probably all three of the ships being converted, because they were deciding whether they could actually... I think it's part of the process of deciding whether they can actually keep going with the program, turn them into successful battle cruisers post-Jutland, and that's battle cruiser one word, not battle cruiser two words, which they've been originally been designed as. Or whether they could... whether they should discontinue them, or whether they should turn them into aircraft carriers, kind of like what they do with Eagle. So the scenario where you get those in nicest way is you get all three of them converted, and probably you don't get Eagle, and you probably don't get Courageous and Glorious, but you also probably get the naval treaties not written as they were, because you've now got three aircraft carriers of roughly 40,000 tons and Hood. And in the nicest way, there is no way you can write the naval treaties as they existed without you accept it, because the Britain's going to go the same way they went with when people would turn around with Hood and went, you should get rid of Hood. Do you want us to leave the treaty? Okay, so right then, we've got to work out a treaty where they get through. Now, you can ignore Hood as a one-off, which they just sort of do, because they go, well, yes, she's bigger, but she only has 15-inch guns, so we're going to let her past. But what they do if you have that scenario, Furious may not be converted into her final form in the end, because she might be considered just pointless. You're not going to get Courageous and Glorious converted, because why does the Royal Navy need to? If you've got three admirals, converted, what does the Royal Navy need a carrier for in that period that those three carriers or Hermes is not going to do for them? While they're still learning and experimenting. If you especially consider the air group size those ships are going to bring, we're talking 90 to 100 aircraft for each one, because they are definitely as big, if not actually slightly bigger than the Lexingtons once they be built. So in a nice way, the Royal Navy's not going to need anything else if they have them. So there's no real scenario where you'd end up with one converted, because by the time you get to the point of the Washington Naval Treaty, they are long past the point at which they can be taken up and converted their hulls.
I decided on one.
There's one hull.
Pressure it would allow.
In a nice way, the Royal Navy's not going to do one on the other. They're going to do two of one or two in the system. But the thing is, actually, the problem for the admirals is, whilst the Americans could lie about the Lexingtons and say they were 37,000 tons exactly, for the Royal Navy, even lying about them being 37,000 tons at that point, once you have the Washington limitation of the tonnage limitation, that wouldn't work in their favor, because they need a number of ships at that point. But when they're looking at building these ships, they would have been built and in service probably by the time you have the Washington Naval Treaty of 1920. So think of it, if they start in 1917, if we consider when Hermes comes into service, they actually have to do far more work to get Eagle into service than they would have then, because Eagle is actually further along than that. HMS Eagle launched this in 1918, and she comes into service is purchased in 1918 and commissioned in February 1924, because they basically sow Walker. These ships, if you're starting the progress in 1917, are so you've got a year of wartime funding, wartime construction on them. They could well be in service by 1919, 1920. In which case, they are free existing assets in service, and you're then structuring the treaty around them.
Mm-hmm.
Probably entirely reset the carrier limitations in the treaty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So as Cyclic initially said,
Probably
the treaty, what
happened.
Happen.
Yes, Cyclic was completely correct. Probably was as what happened. I was listening and very frustrated I couldn't come in and back him up. Probably what you get from through as the treaty is that you get a slightly raised treaty tonnage limit for the carriers. You probably get a raised cumulative limit in terms of number of hulls you're allowed. But also, I could see the Americans getting free Lexington-class conversions out of it so they could match in, and the Japanese probably be allowed 2 conversions. So basically, the Americans would convert another Lexington. And to match up with
You'd
the free
say
admirals.
Constellation, yeah.
Yeah. Which would be quite cool. But you'd also then probably have both the Royal Navy and the US Navy wanting about 240,000 tons worth of allowance for carriers. Because those 3 ships are each going to take about 120,000 tons.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not good. If they're then going to build something about 25,000 tons to provide their numbers, they're going to want about at least another 3, if not 4 of those.
Yep.
So possibly you get if they do agree with a 27,000 ton limit for built carriers, still, it'll probably be so much the Americans and the US the Royal Navy and the US Navy get allocated 10 each. And the Japanese get allocated 6, and they just basically double up the carrier allowance.
Right.
Because then for the US Navy and the Royal Navy, they can go, well, we've got these 3 carriers which take up roughly 120,000 tons, and we've now got another 150,000 tons we can build 25,000 ton carriers for and get 6 extra vessels, and that's for both navies more than adequate. The US Navy probably still get no funding from Congress in the meantime, and the Royal Navy probably slow walk it and get it by about 1930, 1933. Because that's when they historically did max out their tonnage and were starting to replace tonnage.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, the next question I am going to address, and I need clear comms to address this, because I'm going to be very specific. Brandon Larson asks on Discord, you're in charge of the Belgian Navy starting in 1919 and are tasked with building up a navy for a theoretical large-scale naval war in 20 years. You have unlimited money and 60,000 long tons of dockyard capacity. What do you build? Let me be fundamentally clear here. If you want to keep asking these questions, it is fine. However, in future, please do not go with unlimited money. Please go with a percentage of GDP for that year. Because that way I can actually make accurate decisions. With unlimited money, there is no real decision-making process, and the question basically becomes, how silly can I be?
Yeah.
And unlimited dockyard spaces as well, because you're trying to hand wave Navy size limitations, and that's just not.
The dockyard one
works.
is a bit odd, but
I'm able to build 60,000 tons at a time. And I've got to prepare for a major war, and Belgium's got to be part of this major war?
Is it a European war? Is it...
Yeah.
What is it?
Well,
Because if it's a war, European war, you scrap your navy.
Belgium is the only European country which is pretty much not allowed to have an empire.
Yeah.
By universal Europe. In a nice way, when you're the empire that even the other European empires are looking at and going, what the frigate? There's what the Canadians did that got into the Hague Convention and became it's not a war crime the first time you do it. And there's what the Belgians were doing in their parts of Africa.
Which is not a human rights violation the first time they did it.
Oh, no, it was considered
We're in a major war today. So...
Yeah.
Right, as the clarification is, basically, this major naval war later is basically World War II's coming.
Well, in that case, you really don't do anything with your navy.
No.
You throw everything you can at the army and hope that it buys
or an espionage campaign in Germany.
You
to
build
eliminate certain figures.
Yeah.
Actually, Cyclic, you can do something with Navy. Actually, you could build a moat around Belgium that you could float battleships through, so that it could stop the Panzer, the German army coming through.
Yeah, but he didn't say unlimited digging capacity.
He said unlimited money.
What do we?
I have unlimited money. I am buying every single politician in Germany. That's my strategy here.
And every single general.
Because at that point, would you actually want to use a battleship, or would it not be better just to send swarms of river cruisers?
Yeah, this is
Belgium. Belgium
No,
already had riverboats.
I would build a canal big enough. Big enough around around Belgium, a moat big enough around Belgium. I could
Ooh.
float battleships around it
Better yet, what if we stick treads
in the
on them?
nicest way. 16-inch gun versus
We're taking an idea from
tank.
the Cybrans.
16-inch gun wins.
Yeah.
Mm.
What I'm just gonna say to wrap this up is, I don't mind these questions, but they need to have clear context. It needs to not be unlimited money. I would prefer it in percentage of GDP, and I would prefer it in instead of nebulous dockyard capacity. I prefer it in numbers of certain size dry docks or certain size slipways.
Well, it's not only that you need to consider. You need to consider the port infrastructure.
Yes, that as well.
I guess that's just something that comes baked in, right? That we
More
just have
port
to
infrastructure
consider.
than Belgium has coastline. Let's go.
What's wrong, Zui?
Oh, good lord.
Cybran are here for you.
But anyway, so the next question is Brandon Larson's again because it's his Patreon question for the week. So he gets it, and he did ask to. Oh no, sorry, that wasn't Brandon Larson. Sorry, it was Timu's. Sorry,
That was Timu's.
Yeah, Timu. Timu asked
No,
me
you
away.
remember your own patrons.
It's getting rude.
Timu
You
asks.
gave them the correct roles yet.
If
Yes, you have.
if Fleet goes to Nippon, Japan, with the ship-shaped crew, does Fleet study the history of the Shikansen and its driving force, Mr. Shinju Shogo, before heading to the land of the rising sun? I know a little bit about the Shikansen already, but I'm going to be honest with you, I am far more interested in Japanese 3'6" gauge. The Shikansen is nice and all, but
No, though, that
I-
Fleet is going
I-
to be getting a train ticket.
In the simple ways is if we do when we sort of have everything sorted out, because basically once we've got all things and we've got advertising it and raising money for it, that is part of the thing of Fleet hopefully coming. But don't worry, there are going to be railways included, because there is the fact that both me and Gareth do enjoy our railways, and
And that Drac is a
We
former
had-
civil engineer.
and of course, he's, I mean,
Drax still is annoyed with us because we went off. He had to go deal with do something, and he didn't realize what we were doing. And me and Gareth went off to the train museum in Stockholm without him, and he will not let us forget that.
No.
And it's a really cool museum. By the way, it's the only train museum I've been to which is about 4 levels, and they've got trains on every level. How they got the trains up to the top floor, I do not know. But the sheer amount of engineering going into supporting those trains up there is frankly fantabulous.
So,
Not as much.
Uh,
believe it or not,
So
not
very
as much as you might think.
so very
'Cause
quickly, so
Well,
very.
look at this. It's not hard to keep a train at height, even if they weigh a lot. Because that's actually something I had to consider during one of my engineering courses.
Mhm. Axle loading is fun.
I actually have studied railway engineering. I have a qualification.
It's a
Brandon,
really cool museum.
so very quickly, just for Dr. Clark, before we get back to regularly scheduled programming, Brandon Larson would also like you to answer the Patreon question he had for this week that the rest of the panel has answered. If you could go back to any time period in all of history and live there for the rest of your life, what would you each choose and why? So the only one who hasn't answered is Dr. Clark, so away you go.
I have to go back in time because honestly, the best time to be alive at any point in history is usually today. You
I
have
know,
best access
we
to
all
medical
said
care.
that! We all said
So,
that!
Dr.
This was
Clark,
asked,
this specifically
but
factored into my answer, which
Yep.
was I go back to the year I was born, start working a job, and then as soon as Apple comes around, I invest some money.
But they did the next one. No, now you are forced to. They did the
You
next
can't
one.
argue
You
with
are
the
forced
logic.
to go back in time.
I
Well, the
can't
other
argue the
companies
logic.
that
There's Google. There's a few others I would.
Yeah, there's
I
a
would
lot,
do similar
but I was using that
similar
as
to
an
you, Cyclic.
example.
Similar to you, Cyclic, I'd be tempted to, but there's also, I'd be tempted if I could go back and I was going back as an adult, and I was able to take my knowledge back in time. It'd be so tempting to go back to about 1900 and start working with the Royal Navy and build my super dreadnought.
See, See, he
And
gets
see if
it.
that would stop World War One. Or just scare the bejesus out of the whole world when the Royal Navy turns up and goes,
this was basically.
we now
that's
got
what
a dreadnought
my
which has
argument.
28 knots and has 16.5-inch guns.
Hey, Fisher, have you heard of the
And there's-
have you heard of the triple turret? And we can super fire. And we can
Yeah.
super fire these.
Ah, yes.
We can have 5 of these triple turrets.
And by the way, Elswick are advertising that they think they can make a 16.5-inch turret in 1900. 16.5-inch gun. Here's money! Invent me 16.5-inch gun! I want this by 1904. It was going to be a 16.5-inch 45. They reckon they can make in. They were advertising in 1900.
That's pretty impressive, actually.
They didn't do any testing on the thing. They just thought it was theoretically possible. They didn't build one at all. In a nice way, but in 1900, if you hand your money over to Elswick and you say build it, they'll probably have it done by 1904.
Now, whether it worked might be a different question.
Oh, it would
The
work.
power of the Sterling.
Again, it's Elswick Ordnance Company. There are few companies which have been as reliable. They might not produce the lightest barrel in the world, but their barrels always worked.
Yes. Can we very quickly? I would like to get back to the regularly scheduled programming.
Yeah, that was the thing with Elswick. They were really a good company. They didn't. It's going to sound strange. The other barrels in the world produced in the world might be more advanced technology in terms of their precision and their terms of, they're pushing the boundaries, but the Elswick ones always worked. They push the boundaries, but people go, well, that gun, it's a bit heavy. We could make it maybe a bit lighter, a bit this. And Elswick would go, no, it works and it's reliable and it'll take a lot of damage and keep working. Which ultimately, if you're talking about building a battleship gun for something which is going to fight battles with battleship-grade weaponry, isn't necessarily a bad thing. Carry on, Fleet. Sorry.
So it would be nice to sit through one. So it's would I be right to think that the Japanese couldn't with design A1? Would I be right to think that where the Japanese couldn't with design A150, the British Empire industry could make guns as big as 20 inches and armor as thick as 31 inches? I mean, I don't know where you got the idea that the Japanese gun manufacturers couldn't make 20-inch guns.
The problems the Yamato gun manufacturing had.
I mean, yes.
It's probably where they're getting the idea. I'm not saying it's correct, but that might be where they're getting the idea.
But also the thing is, once you've had those problems, you tend to learn from them and develop better and get better.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. The thing is, they can make 20-inch guns. How good they'd be is completely different. It's like the 18.1-inch guns of the Yamatos. They are 18.1-inch guns. How good are guns they are? Well, that depends on who you're talking to.
The one thing I am a bit suspicious of is trying to make a 31-inch thick armor plate that you period is. I'm not actually sure how feasible that is, because that is a big plate. You're like,
well, the thing is,
I'm not sure you could.
I'm just thinking metallurgy-wise, it would be too fragile.
Actually, you could, but the core is going to be, to an extent, molten still. It's going to be set molten, but it's going to be molten. Which means it's going to have very interesting absorption properties in terms of how it spreads the load of impact. I would say you can... see, the thing is, if you were the Royal Navy and you were building that, you probably look at that and go, those plates are never going to set. Perhaps we do an overlapping armor system where we get, I don't know, 2 15-inch plates or something like that. Remember, again, they don't order... This is one of the things that annoys me. You don't order armor in terms of inches of thick. You order it in terms of pounds per meter per square foot, square yard, square meter, depending on which nation you're talking about. You don't order... So, in the nicest way, it's one of the reasons why when we talk about things like the... King George V armor, and people go, it's this many inches. It actually works out as roughly 14.7 from memory. And the thing is, though, if you go through the Royal Navy ordering book, ordering for the battleships, at no point were they asking for 14.7 inches of armor. They were asking for this amount of weight armor per this grade armor. Okay. So the thing is, when you're talking about 31 inches of armor, you're asking about a lot of weight of armor. And one of the things you might look at, therefore, is you might go, well, hang on, I might get two armors which are literally about half the thickness and have them overlapping, so you have no join to the that join that goes the whole way through between the armor plate. Which would again be its own interesting thing, but you could make it work if you could put in the right level of elasticity between the two.
Wouldn't that reduce the effective protection of the armor, though? Like how the composite, we have multiple bits of metal stuck together, reduce the act.
Well, you have to remember, armor plate only ever stops the first impact on it. It doesn't stop the second impact on the same area, or the third, and definitely not the third impact on the same area. So, to an extent, if I was going for 31 inches of armor, instead of going for 31 inches thick armor, I'd probably try and have angled armor of roughly the half the thickness, half the weight inside the hull, and an outer belt of roughly half that thickness, because that's going to be better ultimately protection than having 31 inches thickness of armor. Because at a level of thickness, I'm not sure that the molten. It's like for the Yamatos, and in a nice way, the molten core in their armor seems to have not necessarily helped them with their damage, their protection. So I think there's a trouble with it at the time in how you can make the armor set. And that's your limitation. It's a case of, yes, this armor, theoretically, if it's this thick and it's set and it's all being managed to properly be worked the whole way through, it would be brilliant. But if we haven't managed to set it properly, it's not going to be anywhere near as good. In which case, it's probably better to try and figure out how to use that armor in more creative ways.
I mean, yeah, to be honest, I'm kind of struggling to imagine where you would want to have a 31-inch thick plate
honestly,
on a capital ship in the first place. I mean,
the only place I can possibly think of is the turret faces for the 20-inch gun turrets, given that Yamato's 18-inch guns had an 26-inch turret thick face.
Yeah, and that was basically molten in its core. And please note, when I say molten, I'm not meaning molten as in fiery red-hot liquid. I'm meaning it's still moving. There isn't... I can't think of really an adequate phrase to describe it. Cyclic, with his speciality, probably has a better vocabulary. Plastic. But again, plastic doesn't say it's necessarily sort of...
Well, I'd say the easiest comparison, or the easiest way to visualize it, right? Think of the fact that, like, glass, we perceive it as solid, but technically glass is still molten and moving.
It's a liquid, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Even though we perceive it as solid, you can kind of think it's not perfect analogy, but it kind of is similar in concept, where it's obviously you're not melting on you, but it is still moving.
Yeah, that's basically what we're talking about. When we're talking about it, it's kind of... And as we will think about it, glass can be strong, but it's not necessarily what we'd want shells aiming at.
But wait. That
Yeah,
means
glass
that
is a
you're
very
drinking
hard.
liquid
Is actually a
from
very hard material, but with hardness generally comes brittleness.
Yeah.
Glass is actually quite an interesting material.
It really is.
Would it be fair to say that glass and the armor in this case, it's a case of it'll be useful protection once, sort of thing?
No.
No, not necessarily.
But it'll be hard once.
It depends.
I have to say, I am glad that the people in the Theatre at Sea text chat have realised that Boop is now in charge.
No. Fleet is
Boop
not.
We no
shall
longer
be indeed
refer
Boop.
to...
No,
Boop
Fleet.
the
Fleet
snoot,
is no
everybody.
more... It's now
No,
Boop.
do not boop the snoot. Fleet does not have a boopable snoot. Fleet is not boopable.
I would challenge that. I'm sure there's ways to find out.
I am not.
And
I am not
the reason
boopable.
the reason Fleet is now called Boop is because so often when Fleet is invited on things, I have to boop him to remind him.
Oh, only once.
Too many.
No.
Fleet. Me and Foxo had to end up appearing for that, which was very weird timing, honestly. But
I said I wasn't going to be
It
there.
was fun. And there have been a few times, but don't worry, it's fine. We like booping you, Boop.
Nobody knows the trouble I see.
This actually reminds me of this topic of conversation.
Donis, that's gorgeous. I love it.
This reminds me of just the earlier topic of conversation about armor thickness and hardness and such. Reminds me of the trials that were conducted, and I want to say it was 1870 or around 1870 in Italy at La Spezia between compound armor and Schneider's new mild steel plate, right, where they were trying to determine which would be superior for protection against the 100-ton gun that Armstrong had come out with, and that was going to arm the Italian ironclad battleships. And the compound armor failed to stop the shell, but remained, like, it was still attached, even though it penetrated on the wood backing. Whereas the Schneider mild steel armor, which was harder, just stopped the shell, but also shattered outright, so there was just simply no more belt in that area. Just a useful, I think it's a fun visual example of the extremes of this kind of stuff. Because this is like a 550 millimeter plate, I believe.
I was talking to someone the other day who believed that if you had this armor, it would stop all shells aimed at you. If you had, I think they were talking about this going, no shell would ever penetrate this armor. I'm sort of going, no, basically, if you have an 18-inch, let's say 18 inches of armor, it would probably stop the first shell of up to a certain caliber hitting that area. But if your enemy manages to hit and get another shell to hit within, we're not talking that close a distance, we're talking a good, 20, 30 feet of there on your ship-sized target, that should probably there'll be enough damage done by the first shell hitting to the armor that the second shell will penetrate.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would probably depend on the size of the individual plates, too, in the belt. But, like, any individual plate once hit is not going to be resisting again, for sure.
But it's also going to cause ripples down the other belts, or other plates in the belt. This is the thing. The damage the armor does, especially when the shell does, is going to cause the other plates of armor to move. And this can be a compound thing. They might actually not get direct hits. It's actually one of the interesting things is ships have been there were lots of hits on one side, but the cumulative damage on one side of the hull meant that when they were firing, they were engaged from the other side. It was quite quickly pierced. Good example of this is probably the Battle of the River Plate, where the Graf Spee. It's interesting discussion because if you read some people tell you that the 6-inch guns of the Leander class vessels didn't have a chance. But then you look at some of the damage report done by the Uruguayan authorities, and she was pepper-potted by 6-inch shells in various places, including her arm belt. And the reason I reckon it probably is because the 8-inch shells from Exeter probably did enough damage to the belt, to the armor, that it made it so the 6-inch shells could penetrate quite happily.
Armor degradation is a thing.
They couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is
so that was so this is a Discord question. After a very clean record, Admiral Zara in 1945 went out of his way to create a war crime operations, and in the end he didn't get smacked for it. Do you think he was trying to screw his peers over for messing up the war this badly, or did he actually want to create these operations? Examples: Fugu balloons, I-400 launched sea rounds in US-51 camouflage, using plate bombs, etc., etc. I am not familiar with this part of history. So, well, the balloon, I wouldn't argue that the balloon bombs were war crimes. They were a very innovative way of bombing the United States from Japan with very limited resources. Given the fact that everyone was bombing the ever-living heck out of everybody else, using balloons to drop incendiary bombs on America is not a war crime.
Apparently, their intention was actually to try and create forest fires, cause mass panic.
I would argue that, Dresden and Tokyo.
On the other hand, yes, bombing civilians.
Dresden had a set of targets.
Oh no,
yeah.
no, I'm aware.
All these places had targets, but it's more because these were deliberately designed to destroy the nature around cities, to purposely cause fire and famine. That's a bit different.
Yeah.
One might sound off.
Yeah.
Like one might be bad, but it does still fall under the purview of war. The other is Yes.
Some of it does, not all of it. Dehousing doesn't.
I thought stuff like dehousing,
I'm just saying that this is
to start large fires and destroying the environment.
There is kind of a gray area you get into when it comes to the bombing strategies used by either side in World War II and what gets considered a war crime and unrepeatable after the war and such. But it's also the unfortunate nature of the Second World War, as it was being a total war, where a lot of these considerations were set aside for the case of existential survival.
And also, there's the fact of technological development. So one of the things you have to remember is that some of the rules were not really very practical with the targeting systems and technological advancements you had at the time.
Yeah.
And it was the same kind of, we would like you not to do this. That's good, but you do realize my artillery strike and my bombing strike is lucky if it hits the correct postcode, right? It's a case of, I would love to avoid targeting, and I'm not going to purposely be targeting civilian houses. But honestly, once the shell's up there, I think I've done my mental arithmetic right. I think it'll hit where it's supposed to, but it might not. And it's one of the fun things I had, because again, I was having this discussion with a student the other day who was trying to explain why with GPS. Why didn't the Allies get tried for war crimes as they had access to GPS for their targeting data?
Wait, what?
In World War II.
What?
Yeah.
Huh?
This was an engineering student who I was teaching history of engineering to.
I'm glad he was in the course because he clearly needed it.
They really don't understand history. And it's one of the fun things I sometimes
I don't think
have
they understand that GPS is really a 1990s thing.
Clark, but have they read a book?
Well, the thing is, this particular young person has been born since the millennium, and as far as they're concerned, the GPS is a 20th century thing, and therefore it must have been available in the greatest wars in the 20th century.
Fleet is losing
as someone who was born in 2000?
I've had discussion with them about, what they done, and their basic thing was, well, I didn't do history at GCSE, I did geography, it had to be one or the other. I went, okay, so you haven't done history since you were 13 years old. Yeah, I didn't get good grades in it. I'm great at maths and science. You are great at maths and science. Here's a history book. Let's start reading. Don't worry. I also had to. This is also the same person who I had to explain why that the Greeks, despite the fact they apparently invented a steam engine, according to Wikipedia, did not have steam engines as in steam railways, because he couldn't understand why they were lost the war to the Romans, who didn't have them.
Can we? Okay, look. There's
some underlying logical and connection drawing issues there.
Yeah.
Beyond just not understanding history.
There are issues, yes. And before anyone thinks, I was this particular student. I was asked to help out in my free time because they were having trouble according to the lecturers. Wasn't paid for it. I was just chatting with them and going, "Oh, you're fun."
I said, honestly,
follow me.
No
learn about the
history. But it is just a case of, I'm honestly genuinely curious of how you've got to this point with this level of understanding, more than annoyed at this point, because this is interesting.
I think the lecturer involved thought it was a condemnation of the British education system because the students not doing their degree in the UK now, and I was sort of going, no, it's not the British education system. I've taught A-level and GCSE students, and I've taught university students. I'm not quite sure how this got through.
So they didn't do GCSE they didn't do GCSE history.
No.
Right, as someone who did do GCSE history and still remembers my history, we covered World War II quite extensively in non-GCSE history, and then you go further into it in GCSE history.
Yeah.
And they explicitly mentioned multiple times about how inaccurate all this was because they didn't even know where their own troops could be.
So, question is, in the UK,
okay, right?
Is it how easy is it, or how hard is it to keep a student back for failing courses?
Incredibly easy.
Okay.
Can we
put it this way, Phoenix? I failed my level 6 degree entirely because of a single subject, which I had no teaching on.
Yep.
Which hurt, honestly, but
so,
oh well, these things happen.
My dragon is not a programmer. He never will be. I don't think he ever wants to be.
Why?
Do
yeah. So,
not
minor rant. Why would you
touch-
install? Why would you do coding and give you no teaching at all on it? Don't even tell your people to go and learn about this. I'm fine with being told because it's university. You're expected to go and learn about stuff. But yes, this is a random coding assignment that has not been anywhere throughout this entire course, never been mentioned.
As someone who dabbled in coding for a bit, it's hell.
If anyone ever passes this on to Runon, I will be very, very annoyed with anyone who does, because it might give them the idea that I can do some coding myself, which I could probably do, but we're not going to.
You know Runon watches these streams.
For my ICT A level, when I did that, I had to handwrite code out from memory in how to solve a problem.
Ouch.
Yeah,
we didn't
I don't
type
envy
it.
you.
We had to handwrite it. That was the year where if you got a C, you were above 97% of the rest of the country in an ICT A level. Because, believe it or not, handwriting C++ code, I think it was C++, and the one we used for Visual Basic, was interesting. We also had to program an entire database in Access, if you remember that.
You want the next question, Fleet?
I know how to do that.
We've had a
bit of a
series
side
diversions,
tangent, so
but we need to keep going.
Yep. Keep going.
So,
I like to think about financial decisions.
So that was a.
Kebab.
So this is a YouTube question.
No, Excelsior.
Channel
Yes,
Lord
but the gloriousness.
Oh yes, this is a good one. This is actually a really good one. Chandler Chandel, how would the 1930s change if the Germany was invited to the London Naval Treaty? For the question's sake, both Britain and France have to accept. Well, this isn't actually as bad for the British or the French as it first appears. Because the British know full well the state that the German industry is in at this point. So
it's a chance to lure them into an even more symmetrical conventional navy.
Mm-hmm. And also, more to the point, they know full well, and the French, while the French might at first be annoyed, it probably won't take long for the French army to point out the more the Germans spend on their navy, the less they spend on their army.
There's also the fact that if the Germans come along, there's going to be a new lowest power.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no way the French are allowing them equality with them. But the thing is, for the Germans to have what they would consider a viable amount, you also probably have to invite the Soviet Union for them to be part of it. And if the Soviet Union and Germany are part of it, for it to work, then that's going to increase the allowance of construction for France and Italy, and for and for Japan, and for Britain and America.
And of course,
so everyone's going to be building a lot more ships.
I don't think
Germany's. That's going to be problematic for Germany.
I don't think.
And Japan.
Yeah, I don't think that the why would we invite the Russians, and why would the Russians consent to join?
Because if you want the Germans to consent to their limitations, their biggest theoretical notional threat that isn't the French, because they can't really compete with the French at this point, is the Soviets.
I mean,
in the Baltic.
And if you then
also
can
because
get lower,
the part of the Soviet guarantee has been the Treaty of Versailles limitations on the German naval construction, and actually that caused problems with the Anglo-German naval treaty. Often is pointed out as causing troubles with the French. It caused also troubles with the Soviets.
Why?
So the thing is, you do that. You have to get the Soviets involved.
Aren't the Germans going up in what they can have navally compared to what Versailles grants them? So wouldn't this be a net gain?
No, because the Soviets were worried about the Germans.
The Soviets will want security guarantees of some kind.
Yes.
The Germans are allowed to expand their military capacity in any way. Frankly, I think the French will also be a sticking point here, because the French were very concerned with having to deal with both the Germans and the Italians. And they already had parity with the Italians. So while the Germans were limited to like, oh, you can't have capital ships over 10,000 tons, that was one thing. But if Germany is allowed to, even if it's a lower limit, let's say Germany is only allowed 70,000 tons of battleships, if they can build 35,000 ton battleships, this now divides the available number of ships France will have between the two oceans. And at this point in time, the French, obviously they have good relations with the British, but they also were not betting on having the British on their side in a war. There was still quite a lot up in the air at that point in time as far as their planning went.
we probably get an interesting description where potentially what's really going to be interesting is the Soviets, how much they demand and how much that's going to affect the Japanese procurement as well.
Mm-hmm.
The Japanese still have the Russo-Japanese War on the mind. So honestly, if the Soviets come in and demand parity with Japan, despite the fact they can't build it, but what matters is, please note, when I say these things, what they demand parity with does not necessarily reflect what they can actually build.
Mm-hmm.
Or what they'll get funding for to build, or what they can sustain. It's about the politics, it's about diplomacy of it. The Soviets won't accept anything less than probably parity with Japan, which will cause the Japanese to be annoyed and want more ships. The Germans will try and go for parity with France and Italy. They won't be allowed it. In which case you have probably Germany go, well, we need a sustainable force. Minimum force that's sustainable is going to be what? 4 assets? And then everyone will work out in relation to that.
Yeah, because France is going to want more, and then Italy's going to want parity with France.
Yes. There's possibly going to have to be some agreement whereby, kind of like Britain gets a differential for its light cruisers and heavy cruisers, it's probably going to want a different. France is probably going to want some sort of differential in that they get maybe a larger carrier allowance or something to deal with the fact that they have an empire to protect, as well as the the Mediterranean coast. So that might be the way you sop off the French, by going, okay, yes, you can have more carriers, because the Italians might accept that, because Mussolini is enough of an idiot, he might think that's fine as long as he's got the battleships. In 1930. So that might be how you get. But it's going to be interesting. You're probably talking at least. I could see France and Italy going up to about. Ooh. Well, their traditional ratio is 2 to then it's 3, then it's 5, roughly. Well, they get 2.2. We'll leave that to one side. So they traditionally have 6. They might demand an increase up to 8. If the Germans have 4.
What, in terms of battleships?
Yes, in terms of battleships.
Battleships, yeah. I mean, actually, I think 280,000 tons, which should be 8. I think the French actually did. That was their original fallback position when they first went into the Washington Naval Treaty. They wanted like 350,000 tons of battleships, which should have been 10, and they had a fallback to 280,000, which is part of the reason they were so angry when they got 175,000. But
so I think they might accept that. They might accept that. In which case, if they get 8, and then the Japanese are going to want an increase to 12. With the Russians having allowed to 12, well, on the understanding, the Russians will keep them divided between the Pacific Fleet, the Baltic Fleet, and the Black Sea Fleet. So they're basically allowed 4 for each of the fleets. In which case the Germans have parity, theoretically, with them, and the Japanese can't claim too much. But if the Japanese and the Russians are allowed 12, then the British and the Americans are allowed 20? Possibly the Japanese get 14, and the British Americans get 20. 3.5. But I think it's more likely they get 12. Maybe they get 13 allowed, or something like that. But it's going to be something. It's going to be 12 to 14, and the British and Americans will get allocated 20. The big problem, though, for the Germans is that whilst everyone else in that list can build a 35,000-ton battleship at that time, the Germans don't have the infrastructure in place to build it for a few years, and won't have the infrastructure no matter how, unless they for a few years, because they have to rebuild the infrastructure because it was all destroyed after Versailles.
Next question, Fleet.
Yes.
I'm going to go quickly see if I can grab some food. I'll be back in a second.
Indeed. So it'll be a Discord question this time.
Yep.
So this will be Brandon Larson. What is each member of the panel's favorite ship in Star Wars and Star Trek from each of the factions in both series? You don't ask much, do you? For Star Wars, you have to pick one ship from Legends and one ship from canon for each faction. Can we make it one ship generally, because if we have to do that for each faction, we will be here all day. We will be here all day.
Yeah.
The problem is, though, Fleet, as soon as you try that, you've got too many ships. That wording is very specific for a reason, I suspect.
Yeah, but for one ship from Legends and one ship from Canon for each of the factions,
that's a lot of factions.
Yeah,
depends what you classify as factions.
How about we just do favorite ship from Legends, favorite ship from Canon
for Star Wars, and just from Star Trek?
Yeah, and then because we don't have 15 hours.
We'd have to go through the.
I really fail to see why you think it'll take that long, but.
But we have to go
as someone who understands all these factions, like
Vulcans, Romulans,
the only correct answer.
No, Fleet, because the Vulcans aren't a faction really anymore. The Vulcans are the Federation.
Yes,
the Federation literally knocks out so many groups.
The point I was trying to make is that we'd have to go through all the major factions, all the minor factions.
So
we'd have to go
Romulans, Klingons, Cardassians, Federation,
Dominion, Borg.
Nope, because
that's the question.
Yeah, I know you changed your question, but Dominion,
most of these factions,
like Dominion, have 3 ships. The Borg have 2. Technically 3, unless you go into incredible niche detail from the games.
But we're still talking for just Trek.
Also, the Borg are no longer a faction because the Borg are dead.
Yeah, but we still have to pick 5 ships for each person in the panel, and then.
What do you mean 5?
So Cardassian,
faction.
Yeah, for each.
Yeah, but that's
one per faction.
Also, Cardassians are simple. There is 2 Cardassian ships if we're just going off canon here.
Yes, but that's still each and also some people may not actually know about the ships from that.
Then
faction.
you just say skip.
That's not. And then from Star Wars, oh boy.
You've got the 4 major factions.
And the Hutts and the...
The Hutts don't have ships really currently.
I mean, they do in Legends, that's the thing.
They're not much of a faction, and they're mostly classed as pirates, if you want to class them as a faction.
I know.
It really comes down to...
We have to do each individual pirate faction separately.
Yeah, like, that's my point. Like, normally this is why things are classified into groups. Like, Hutts are considered pirates. 99% of mods and lore and material. Like,
can I count Jabba the Hutt as his own ship? Actually, that's
not quite.
It's a Wookiee Vinadara Chingo Chingo, hey yo.
Please.
Jabba the Hutt impression. Jabba the Hutt impression.
Fluent in Hutties.
I am fluent in Hutties.
I never twigged Fleet for being fluent in Hutties. That's not a compliment either.
I have jokes I want to make, but I can't.
Anyway, so very, very, very briefly, I'll be quick.
I'm still wondering if Fleet was the Fleet of Oceans I saw saying "bow bow" on Fuamoko earlier. Apparently,
that cannot possibly be me. I don't watch VTubers.
Right, correct. Do major factions, so that now significantly limits the number of groups you're thinking about.
That's still.
So it's literally what I was saying.
Yeah, that's still a bit of a monster of a question. But all right, let's be quick about it.
Phoenix, that's hilarious.
Let's be. What's he done?
I knew I'd get a rise.
He sent me a DM. You don't need to worry about.
Your angry Fleet noises. I grumbled.
All I'm gonna say is Madagascar 3.
Oh no! You can't do that to me. Do you know how much I've sacrificed? No, you can't do this to me.
Oasis hippos.
Oh, no. I know what you've done to me, you son of a bitch. You son of a bitch. Period.
They haven't done some of the other things, so don't worry.
Anyway, so very quickly, getting back to the question.
There are only 2 correct answers: the Borg Cube and the Superstar Destroyers.
Which Superstar Destroyer?
So for Star
all
Trek,
of them.
So for Star Trek, Borg Cube, NCC 1701A. the classic Klingon bird of prey, whatever that class name is.
Which one?
And the classic
which one? There's a bunch.
The Klingon bird of prey.
3.
They all look the fucking same. I don't know.
No, they don't. If you want to go off that,
if
you want to go off of that fleet, give me a moment because I had this discussion with Brandon recently.
It doesn't look. That's my favorite ship. I don't know Star Trek that well, and then obviously for the Romulans, it's the Deredex because funny.
Where is it?
Funny ship with space in the middle. For Star Wars, it's really simple. For the Empire, I have a real soft spot for the Victory 2. For the Rebellion, I like the Home 1 type. Mon Calamari
there you go, Fleet.
cruisers.
Which bird of prey do you want?
For I don't care. They are all the same. Just run through the printer at different sizes.
I think the best Star Trek ship
They
probably
literally are. It is literally the same image run through the printer at different sizes. I swear to God.
Not according to the series.
I don't give a flying.
Every single one's a different ship class.
Yes, I don't doubt they are different ship classes, but again, printer, 3D, replicators.
See, one of these is a Bismarck class, one of these is an Admiral Hipper class, and the rest of them I don't know.
Yeah, but very quickly to get back to Star Wars. So I've done the Empire, I've done the Rebellion. So for the Confederacy, I'm sorry, I am a Magnificent Stand till the day I die. All of the rapid fire turbo lasers go pew 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 pew. And for the Republic, screw the Venator. I don't need that in my life. I need.
Oh, them's fighting
class.
words.
I need the Secutor class because very, very good.
What? Right. Initially, I thought Fleet might have some semblance of class, and then you go and ruin it again.
This is opinion. Class doesn't come into it.
Class very much does, precisely because it's opinion.
Yeah. This is the one time where the class does come in explicitly.
Okay, I will now open.
I agree. The Venator's overrated.
Okay,
but you could have went with something better than the Secutor.
You could have gone with the Infested Donut.
Okay. Well, no. Look. The Danger Donut is nice, but you cannot beat the Magnificent going pew 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 pew. Anyway,
yeah, you can.
Yes, you can.
Lucrehulk just going vultures upon ye.
I will admit the Lucrehulk is the dangerous donut, and it is very funny. So, very quickly, Star Wars and Star Trek, main faction ships, from the top, Phoenix, going downwards, rattle them off, people, please, quick as we can.
Oh God, you know what? I'm just gonna go one per setting because otherwise I don't have strong enough opinions otherwise.
Yeah.
So Star Wars Venator, I'm on a milquetoast standard, but I love the Venators. Star Trek, Bones X Spock. There we go.
Well done.
Good.
Well done. Good meaning of the word ship. Well done. Well done. So Dr. Clark, very quickly.
I didn't hear the question.
What is each member of the panel?
Which program?
Which
program?
Yeah, both programs from each of the
Star
factions.
Trek.
From each of the factions in both
from
series.
main faction.
Yeah.
Venator is usually my favorite Republic because I like a decent space carrier. Honestly, for Star Trek, it's probably, and this always does tend to get me into trouble, but I quite like the Defiance. I know it's very commentated.
That's a wild card pick, but nice.
Honestly, I do videos about them all. I spend too much time debating them to really have favourites. The thing is, I have to say my favourite science fiction ship in terms of television production is still going to be the Daedalus class from Stargate.
Yeah. It's not a bad human ship, but nah.
No, it's a very good ship. Especially when it's integrated with Asgardian systems, but it is a very good ship as an idea of what humans would actually build a ship like. This is the thing of, for first generation, or technically, I suppose, 0.5 generation of human ship, it looks very like what the humans would build.
Oh, this sweet chat. You think there's only 3 types? The Brel class itself depends on which variant. Brel is just a description. You have the K-22, K-21, and multiple other variants of the Brel class bird of prey.
Can someone please explain to me what the abomination of a train which has appeared in that chat? And I'm not going to call it an engine or a unit or anything. I'm just going to call it a train that has appeared in the
Canadian
Did somebody? Oh, okay. Okay,
we would like to apologize for this.
That is something which actually only Fleet will think is beautiful because he likes the Hoche.
On
everyone else will protest about it.
See, this is why Canadian National shouldn't
your
have been
standard
privatized.
North American freight locomotive look.
This is why Canadian National shouldn't have been privatized.
In terms of the front, yes, I would agree, Cyclic. But look at the back.
Yeah, I saw how it's
look at the way they've shaped it. It looks like it has a hump on the back.
I mean, yeah, it looks like a German Shepherd.
You're thinking of Stargate, Rusted, not Star Trek. Big difference. It's literally in its name.
But you act like Rusted can read.
Well, they're nice as way. People get confused quite often because they're all star things. It's not, it's why I think Babylon 5 did so well for so long, and same with Andromeda, because they were the first ones in ages which didn't have star in their name.
I think, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've sort of petered out a little bit on this question. Shall we move on?
Yes, you didn't even ask me.
All right, Foxo, what's your opinion on the world that we live in? And the Star Wars ships, I guess.
I'm going to choose one of
That's
them.
an open question.
Tiny Burrell class bird of prey. They're adorable.
Oh
yeah, they genuinely are.
Because they're adorable, and everything in Star Trek is too small to be classed as a spaceship by my standards.
What?
Yeah, I'm a Warhammer fan.
Oh yeah,
if it's not measured in kilometers, it's not a spaceship.
Okay, then you like the Odyssey class and the Jupiter class, then?
No.
Those are both over 1,000 meters.
Ew.
That's
As
tiny.
fun.
That's smaller than an escort.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
Depends on the
Sword.
Depends on the escort.
Sword.
Oh right, there is the really
monitors.
small Imperial escort that only has friggin' torpedoes.
Yeah, like the
Cobra.
like the sword class.
Sized.
Yeah, like the
They
sword
get
class.
mentioned once before this.
No.
Fleet demolishes them around Arcadia.
No, System Monitor.
The
You
Imperium?
say that, Foxo, but
Yeah,
System Monitors actually get mentioned a lot.
God.
Yeah,
How did
I'm
we
not
get
talking about
here?
the big ones like Cadia got. I'm talking the little ones.
No, I'm just meaning System Monitors in general actually get mentioned a fair bit. Like, they keep being brought up in various different books just randomly of, yes, this System Monitor is in orbit. I don't entirely know why.
Because they're there. Because they're just there. Like
Yeah, but it's been completely randomly brought up.
That's their job.
Yes, this thing. No, it's not.
Yes, the System Monitor's job is to be randomly places protecting things. They're just there.
Who said anything about protecting?
That's the job.
Yeah, but who said anything about protecting? They just appear in random positions in random books. Like, yes, this ship is here.
Because
Ignore the rest of it.
authors
Yes, because
don't
authors.
know. Like,
There are very few authors that understand anything about like how navies are organized and sufficient scale of combat. Not just in space, but in space in particular. It's unfortunate. They killed everything. Jesus.
The carrier version of the
Random
Luke
supremacy.
just because it's warmth. Anything will die in Star Wars if you throw enough fighters at it.
Not scientifically true, but
They have very good inertial dampeners, apparently.
Can we
well, no, the Elusa Hulk fighters are droids.
Oh yeah.
Don't ask Ken. It's your show. Just move
Oh yeah,
on if you
right.
want.
Moving on. So YouTube question: Mark Hartness. I was given to believe that the Kearsarge class BB5 and Kentucky BB6 muddied the waters on superfiring turrets with the less than satisfactory results of the 8-inch turrets stacked on main battery turrets. No, they didn't muddy the waters for superfiring turrets. They just confirmed that stacking turrets. Well, no, they didn't confirm because the US did it again later. But they, for a short time, confirmed this was a stupid idea and the US should put their 8-inch guns back on the wings until they did it again. I don't know why they did it again. They had the Kearsarge class and then there was a good break, and then for some reason, one of the last classes...
Someone had a bright idea!
Weight savings. Remember what they were operating under. Congress, in many cases, would put tonnage limitations on stuff.
It is what it is.
Because Congress had a lot of bright ideas, and people had to try and have other bright ideas to try and deal with Congress's bright ideas.
Yeah. Literally, the second to last class of pre-dreadnoughts that the US Navy specifically ordered the Virginias also had them, and they built 5 of them. Yes, I'm aware the US I'm aware that the US also had the Mississippi class, but the US did not order the Mississippis. They were built under speculation, and the US Navy then bought them.
Yes. But people often have bright ideas.
Yes.
Very often.
But yes, they didn't really muddy the waters on superfiring turrets. They just gave the idea that, yes, stacking guns on top of other guns is not very smart if you're talking about full-size, secondary battery turrets. Don't do it. It's bad for your health.
No.
We don't.
No.
It's don't do it.
Never been smart.
Yeah, don't do it. It's bad for your health. So, Discord question. Yay! Fleet is actually going places. Question for Dragon and any members of the panel who play Star Trek Online. What's your favourite ship from each in-game faction? Here we go again. Luckily, I don't play Star Trek Online, so this will be very short and sweet.
Give me a second match again.
I've been playing it for my Twitch streams, but I haven't yet got round to it.
I'd recommend it as someone who has played that game for almost 4,000 hours.
I'm sure it'd be great. I'm sure it'd be great. I'm currently...
No, I don't, because legally speaking, I sell his items for him. I'm actually more like a banker for him. Therefore, he's not a sugar daddy.
This is more than
I feel that's a distinction without a difference.
I help him fund his gambling habits by selling his profits. I get bonuses for doing so.
What in the what? Can we get back to the topic at hand, please?
Yes, I'm grabbing actual images for the chat fleet so that, your people can look at stuff.
That sounds like a distinction without a difference.
Yeah. It is.
They will look.
Yeah.
They will look.
I'm
at the
totally
image.
not jealous of Salty.
You have North Sea oil money then. Genuinely, you could probably call him Sir Salty. Wish I was joking about that, the amount of money they have.
Anyways, moving on.
Oh, give me a... basically, I'll post these ones quickly in the chat. So, Federation, you're talking about the Atlas class from the 23rd century, which is a prototype dreadnought cruiser, according to the game's description, which eventually leads to the Presidio class tactical command battle cruisers. Don't ask me why they're called battle cruisers when they're the size of dreadnoughts. Or the Jupiter class. Nope, because the ribbing is still the same as a battleship or dreadnought. Because don't ask why there's a separation of those terms either. For more modern Starfleet, we're talking about the Jupiter class.
That's pretty common in
it probably goes back to the Starfleet Command Gold series, where there were both battle cruisers, battleships, and battle cruisers, dreadnoughts, and battleships. Where the battleships were the biggest, and dreadnoughts were the ones below them, and then it was the battle cruisers, and they affected their different sort of rollout mission set, and what you'd be centered to do, and what you'd be doing more than anything, and the sheer quantity of firepower and survivability you'd have. But that was Starfleet Command Gold, which was a wonderful game, which I still do play.
It's on GOG, I believe, now, with all the patches. Yeah. Really good option.
Oh, yes, it is. I have it on that.
So, as for the Klingons, it would have to be either the Quib or the Matar Raptor.
Quib.
The Quib is the most... Yeah, Quib. QIB. It translates to shadow.
Quib. Sorry, just being reminded of Mass Effect with that one.
Oh, the Quib. Yeah. I'm
Do
sorry.
not ask about the ship name.
Quib translates to shadow in Klingon. Therefore, it isn't, considering it is a special operations ship. With the most advanced cloaking, with the most advanced cloaking tech the Klingons have, or it'll be the Matar Raptor, which is what's the biggest cannon we can stick on basically the equivalent to a destroyer. Because
is that the quid pro quo?
I can't. I'm sorry.
It definitely does
work. I'm sorry. I can't get over.
For work with the Iconians when it transported Kaelis to go and murder one of their leaders, where literally a Klingon warrior murders an almost god-level being with a sword.
I can't.
Works pretty well to me.
I can't get over the mighty Klingons arrive in the Quib.
You dare insult Klingonese, fleet?
Yes, I do.
You dishonorable.
Oh, the Quib. I can't take the Klingons seriously ever again. Oh, then again, I never
actually learn their language.
It's fine. They're not a very good military.
No, they really aren't. But we'll leave that to one side.
Actually, the military's not bad. The problem is most of what we don't see is the actual military. We see house militia there, and that is a very noticeable difference in Klingon culture. As for the Romulans, it would be the Ranadair class support carrier, which is the green one, which has massive hangar bays.
TIL Star Trek had fighters.
Bonus one, the Tholians with the Tholian Tarantula and the Jem'Hadar Dreadnought Cruiser.
Dreadnought Cruiser.
Carrier.
Dreadnought Cruiser Carrier?
Oh, because they're different terms. Dreadnought Cruisers only get one hangar bay by game terminology.
Reminded of
Carriers
a certain
get two.
German cruiser.
By any chance, are the Jem'Hadar floating around the space equivalent of the Blucher?
Can I get a horse effect? Do we have a soundboard
maybe,
for that?
Actually.
We don't
have one, I think, somewhat similar.
Yeah, we don't have soundboards in Theatre at Sea, luckily, because I'd probably get them removed.
No, SDO doesn't have Neo-Tholians, Leslie, but they do have the advanced Tholian fleets, which, if you look in the images I posted, you've got the third ship, which is the Tholian Tarantula-class Dreadnought. Or, as the Tholians class it, is the Tarantula-class Mothership. Because they usually carry Tholian queens on board, which are leaders of colonies.
Right, can we move forwards with the speed and the power?
No, I'm sure there are more ships.
There is. I can get
plenty. Stop it.
Yeah,
right, no, put my foot down.
Let me finish Fleet. Because I was Moe also plays SU. And also Fleet, beyond just that, I was about to say, you didn't even let me finish the point of, but those are the only major factions, and the Tholians we've even thrown as a bonus. There's only 4 factions in STO that's playable, so that's literally basically 4 ships. I threw in a few freebies.
Well, you can't go wrong there. Oh.
You call me a nerd, Spiteful, but I know how much you've played, what's it called? Your weird... I can't remember. Foxhole, that's it.
Wow, calling... careful. We have a lot of...
If you're going to call me a nerd, you have to accept that you're also one.
We have a lot of colonials and a lot of wardens in the dry dock. Let's not...
And I'll introduce them to the end of my phaser lance if needed.
Let's not annoy the people who organise massive logistics chains on a regular basis.
I think this would be a glorious, fun scenario to encounter.
Right, so, makeup...
skipping Moe?
No, I'm not skipping Moe, not intentionally. Moe, please, quickly, put me out of my misery. Use the lance. I am dying over here.
Well, okay. I haven't played in quite a while, so I've only played Federation. I like the Avenger class.
Ooh, good choice. I'll get an image of that for people.
So you can move on now.
Avenger is a very solid choice. When the Klingons basically decide, what happens if we make a cruiser scale Defiant? Overgun it and overspeed it. As Moe said, he's only played what's called Feds, so...
Move on.
I'm just trying to bring up...
We're giving you your option to go, quickly. Otherwise I'll keep talking.
Okay, I'm going.
I am going.
I am go.
You know these sort of science fiction questions are my strong suit.
Damn, it's more like a scaled up fat Voyager than it does a Defiant.
Not really, because it's actually not...
Yes, it does. Look at that hull shaping. That is far more a Voyager than anything else.
We're referring to a different ship here entirely.
I just put the quib up on YouTube.
I would say overall, in some regards maybe, but I'm more meaning in terms of role. This thing is massively overgunned, over-engined, and is designed to do one thing, which is be very, very angry.
Well,
and before they've made it so that cloaking devices can be equipped on any ship, the Avenger was one of the only ships that could be equipped with the cloaking device the Federation had.
Right.
Technically, Rusted, you are very technically a clone. Due to the quantum dynamics of it. But then again, are you the same person you were 10 years ago? The answer is no, because your body has completely replaced itself by then.
He's making a copy of a copy and slowly the grades.
Knight 6831 asks, so if the USA joined the Central Powers and lost, who'd get its colonies? Well, first of all, if the USA joins the Central Powers, I struggle to see them losing. Yes, the British fleet is large. Yes, the French also have a large army to fight the Germans with. But I'm sorry.
The thing was the question he originally gave me, and this was probably coming from the question he gave me, was that it was the Americans decided to ally with the Central Powers from the get-go and join the war in 1914 when their armed forces are really not ready for it.
Yeah, that's even worse. That's even worse then, because.
Well, my view was that the Americans, the nicest way. My view was that honestly, the problems would come about was if they're joining the alliance. Then that's going to be factored into the shipbuilding programs. They're probably still not going to get any more funding, and in a nice way, America would be politically divided enough over the subject of fighting in this scenario in this war that probably it would be a scenario of almost British potentially beating the American Navy, having a blockade, and there being an internal revolution led by someone like Roosevelt or someone like that, and the war ending very quickly.
Dr. Clark, I'm going to have to disagree in very, very strong terms.
In 1914?
On your assessment of how divided the U.S. would be over that.
I don't think they'd want to be involved in the war. I really don't see them getting. I don't see them. There's reason to join the war because the Austrians have invaded another country. Because that's what it was.
It would depend on how the British blockade of Germany plays out and how that diplomacy is done.
No, the question was literally that America would declare war immediately to back up Austria and Germany on their invasion of Belgium and etc. America would be an aggressor along with them, and I was sitting there going, "No, America
wouldn't do that."
I said,
but that's not going to cause. That's not going to cause something like that. It's just with the way we work, particularly then, you're just not having a declaration of words. You're not having the U.S. declare war.
Well, the question was that if the government went ahead and declared war, if the president declared war anyway, my view was that if he tried to, the British would probably react by reinforcing Canada, and there would probably be some sort of scenario in the Senate which would find the president impeached.
Yeah, basically, because you're going against the wishes of the.
Well, I mean, vote to go to war. At that point in time, the president can't even do that. So
yeah, well, I know the president can't, but if the president just did it,
it would be an illegal order to the military and be ignored.
Yeah, so he would they wouldn't be followed, or he'd be removed from power. It would be that simple. You kind of can't just throw the U.S. into a war in this period unless Congress is behind you on this war, which would generally mean you've elected enough people from the general population who want a war, or at least want the U.S. to stick by the Triple Alliance so heavily that we go to war with the Entente for whatever reason.
There's potential there, but again, it would have to be playing off of the freedom of trade stuff, just like how the Germans ran afoul of that.
Yeah, you'd also have to have. Yeah. You'd also have to have certain scenarios in the 1900s where the British and the French snub the Americans.
That's less important, far less important. Fleet. The U.S. of this time period, almost as many Americans learned German first as learned English first.
Oh no, I'm aware. I'm aware there's a large German immigrant population in the United States. But what
it's not even immigrant. They've been there as long.
Sorry, well...
Yeah, the thing is, though, I would say quite a lot of the German population, though, are not actually as sympathetic to Germany as they sometimes are made out of, because they
exactly. That's why that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is this would have to depend on if the U.S. were to join the Central Powers in this war, it would be for similar reasons as the U.S. joined the Entente.
Yeah. But that wasn't the question which I was given.
Yeah, and I've already sort of stated what would happen there. Like you're not even going to get hostilities formed.
No. The thing is that even assuming the scenario Knight entails, to be perfectly honest, given what the US is as a proposition, as a conflict asset, and British and what the British can realistically do in a blockade or from Canada, you're literally gonna have to go. So Central Powers in Europe are kill. You want to just not fight anymore, US, and we'll go back to status quo antebellum, and the US will go, yes, this whole thing was stupid. That's it.
Probably gonna be. It would be 1812, 1814 all over again.
Yeah,
it really would be.
Like the German Empire and the Austrians are going to get absolutely slapped in Versailles. Everyone's going to look at America and go, there is nothing realistically we can do to force any kind of concession, even colonially.
And the U.S. is going to sit there and go, what's the point? Why are we expending all these lives for defeated people?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. In fact,
I think I did say there were some colonies which the Americans actually were actually quite keen on the idea of getting rid of by that point. So they might try and use it as an excuse to offload them,
without losing the pride of it. Yeah, that could be something.
Yeah,
but it's possible. But it would depend entirely on how the peace treaty would shake out. But I still maintain the return to status quo antebellum is incredibly likely.
It probably is.
So,
but also there was the thing I was looking at when I was talking it through and thinking about it was that one of the things you have for the British is they have a huge submarine force at that point, and they have advantages in those numbers because, again, thanks to Congress and the way they've been funding the U.S. Navy, and people always have to remember this is the problem for the U.S. Navy. It's not they're not good. U.S. Navy is usually pretty well trained and pretty decent. It's that Congress is so weird in how they fund the U.S. Navy. In that you will find the U.S. Navy will have a good battle line, but they won't have any cruisers. Or they'll have, they'll have excellent capital ships, not enough destroyers.
Yeah. U.S. Navy literally, U.S. Navy in the interwar period. You're telling me that our battleships are locked in and safe, so we can actually build the screen to our battle line properly? Yes, that's what we're telling you.
Yeah.
Hallelujah! Fucking finally!
Seriously, Congress has done more to defeat the U.S. Navy in wars than any other power has ever done.
Oh dear. Good times. Good.
I think this all came out of a remark when I was talking about the fleets of Jutland, because the building of fleets of Jutland, because I pointed out that the only navy in the world at that time which had actually been building, had the funding to and the industrial capacity and the continuous support to build not just the battle line but build all the ships that needed to support it, was the Royal Navy. And that's why when you look at the Battle of Jutland, you go, oh, so the Germans have this many battleships, the British have this many ships. Oh, the British have more battleships there alone than the Germans have battlecruisers, pre-dreadnoughts and dreadnoughts combined. Okay. Then you go, look at the cruiser level below that. The British have about 3-to-1 odds in terms of cruiser numbers. And then you go below that and you look at the destroyer size, and you're going, what's going on here? Well, basically, the Germans, to try and fund building as many battleships as they could, had to not fund anything else they were building, pretty much. So they didn't build cruisers, and they didn't get enough. Their torpedo boats didn't grow enough. For the U.S. Navy, it's sort of similar. There are people who honestly think the U.S. Navy doesn't want to build cruisers in the 1900s. No, the U.S. Navy would have liked some cruisers.
I mean,
it's just trying to get funding for cruisers out of Congress was a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, the USN, you can see where the USN wanted to go with the Chesters. Like, they were, like, a prototype for what, like, something of what the US wanted to do. And then they go, no.
Great ideas for their cruiser force. They just don't get the funding from Congress to do them. Congress will go, we'll give you the battleships. Oh, but they're going to be short-range ships.
Ah.
We're going to do... Again, even then, when they give you the battleships, they Congress, Cyclic is far more versed in this than I am. Congress were just a bit of a nightmare for the US Navy in this period.
Not to worry.
In that period?
But, someone might have spilled the beans about your experiences with programming.
Uh-oh? What do you mean,
oh, no.
Uh-oh?
Well, Clark explicitly said, now don't tell Runon this, but it seems people in the YouTube chat are explaining this to Runon currently.
Hey.
I'm not mad. Who's telling Rui?
So, very quickly, so that was a pretty good question.
Yep,
it was about 20, in my defense, it was about 20 years ago, so it's not exactly recent experience.
Runon's response is, yeah, C, Java, and C+, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. So, Zuikaku asks, question 3, so Hiei was fit with a prototype Yamato bridge and fire control, whereas the other 3 Congos had their older Pagoda-style bridges. Well, technically not older, they were added in a refit, they weren't that old.
But they're old compared to the other bit.
Yeah. Would Hiei have an advantage in fire control over her 3 sisters? I don't know. I don't know what the exact differences in the fire control fit between Hiei and the other Congos was. Didn't really see them.
It is an advantage, but it's more of a evolutionary advantage than a stark. Oh my lord! Yeah. It's more of a case of we've got the newer version of this and newer version of that, and you know it's a case of this is everything's a little bit better, so cumulatively is better, but it's not so much that you're going to go, wow, this is a completely different class of warfighting vessel.
Right. From YouTube, I couldn't speak then for a second. Knight6831. So if nope, that's the different one. For Foxo, given the Royal Navy gets so little time working with the commander, would that not be something he'd want to address? Presumably, this is an Azure Lane question.
Wait, Fleet,
it will be an Azure Lane.
No. Oh, whoops!
Missed
no, I
question.
Yes, you did.
Yes, yep. Sorry, I forgot. Yes, I missed that one. Sorry, Knight. Hang on, I got it. Knight71. Would I be right to think that, given Yamato's size, she'd have not only survived the Crossroads bombs far better than the BBs did? Yes, she would have survived the bombs better because she's just bigger and tougher. That's just yes.
No. She's bigger and tougher, but there's also Japanese damage control to deal with. So she has a good chance, and if damage control is equal, then yes, she's probably got she's got a better chance.
But this is at Crossroads.
Oh, this is Crossroads for in which case, the trouble is that the damage control is not just about the personnel doing damage control. It's about how you build the ship. So whilst I think she would have, let's put it this way, I don't want to sound like I'm anti-Japanese here or anything on this front because this was quite easy one to get into, but it's a case of damage control is also about how you structure the survivability inside the ship, and how many redundancies you build into things, as well as the personnel doing the damage control. Yamato, I think honestly it would work out roughly the same. It's got more mass to deal with the damage, but it's got less in the way of what I would call measures to provide it with the extra buoyancy it's going to need. Even in Operation Crossroads, it's going to be an impact.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point.
It's a case of, for the Japanese, because they are putting so much emphasis on the offensive capability of their forces, and you made this point last night, but it's true including in their construction. They really do not put enough discussion on the defensive value of their forces, and the defensive value includes things like survivability.
That's very true. You know, sometimes I think that I know things, and then I get reminded, no, Fleet, you don't know all the things.
I bit my tongue on that.
Cyclic, if you disagree with me, please do, but it's just a case of it's...
Oh, no, bit my tongue on what Fleet said.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I don't mind.
The Japanese really, really did not place much emphasis on survivability of most of their fleet. Looks at the cruisers.
Their cruisers are just...
Which did the bulk of their fighting, them and their destroyers, and their destroyers weren't too much better.
Sorry, I'm laughing at that comment, Runo, but it is just slightly amusing with the way that you could potentially be phrasing that latest one.
You are confetti!
You see places where they clearly put a lot of thought into defensive attributes of ships. It's just that they're very readily willing to sacrifice defensive characteristics for offensive characteristics, whether it was chasing down speed or greater firepower. And oftentimes the resulting refits they had to do is ships would just degrade this. I mean, if you look at the cruisers particularly, where they had to rebuild them, usually it was, what was it? Twice to 3 times depending on the class, right? And you watch the armor belt just slowly go further and further below the waterline in every new iteration. Not really ideal.
It's just it's just not a sensible scenario they get themselves into.
Is the Congos like the only one where they actually added armor?
They didn't meaningfully add armor.
They didn't add armor. They added honeycomb structure in some of them, which is why I sometimes say, well, their subdivision does mean that they do cross the line to being a fast battleship. It's not
enough.
One of the things I'm going to do.
For me and Drac often have the conversation. I literally go, well, there's 2 which they do enough subdivision in my mind to cross them, and there's 2 which they don't.
Yeah. See, here's the thing: Fleet is going to get Dr. Clark and Drac across the table, specifically with him recording, and I'm going to let them go at it and just sit there and moderate, and this'll be fun.
Just do battle cruiser versus battleship, and what is what.
I said,
we have
why it's always because...
I mean, that dovetails into the Congos, so...
Yeah.
Whee!
That's why it's just always amusing hearing the whole things about how Clark and Drac working on a shed, discussing random points of naval history and whether they agree or disagree on certain aspects.
So,
it's just the sort of thing you want to hear in the background or something.
Yeah.
That was literally us a few summers ago.
Yeah.
Literally, at one point, someone probably was getting. We think we probably scared some because they turned around and headed away because we were actually sitting astride the roof of the shed, fixing the slate. We were having a very passionate debate. I think it was about 15-inch versus 16-inch guns and their merits, but I'm not quite sure. It was a fun one.
The only thing I could... Oh, never mind. I'm just going to shut up because Fleet's going to put his...
Personally, my bets would go... I would personally be more biased towards the 15-inch gun, but that's just me. Right. I always personally find the 15-inch gun more fun than the 16-inch gun.
So,
15-inch 50.
Basically, I did come down to 15-inch 50 of whether or not going with the 15-inch 50 and the F3 design would have been far better. How much better it would have been than a Nelrod design to go with for the British long term.
So,
I think if they had gone for a different philosophy of 16-inch gun than on the Nelsons, I think they would have been
potentially
fairly well served. But they went for that weird, really high velocity.
Could you potentially have refit Queen Elizabeth's longer guns?
You could potentially refit the other 15-inch ships with the 15-inch 50s, but the thing about the 16-inch guns you also remember is that's the classic example of the false positives you can get from experimentation testing.
Yeah, it is.
Because they get to testing, and it appears to show one thing, and then the reality is complete. After long periods, they go, "Oh, frig! It was completely opposite." And it's the same as you get with people don't sometimes understand this about the whole air defense debate for ships in war. Why can they afford to have low angle guns in the Royal Navy spinning? Because in all the exercises, what do the aircraft go after? They go after the cruisers, they go after the carriers, they go after the capital ships. Because if you're in an exercise where you're not going to get killed, and you don't run that risk,
take the time to look.
No, you take the risk to go for the glory, because let's be honest, if you come back from an exercise as a pilot from flying an exercise flight where the risk is not dying, you're not gonna. So you've not got that risk. Are you going to come back and say, "Well, I sank a destroyer," or "I sank a carrier," which sounds cooler?
The carrier.
Well, the other thing in wartime is right. I mean, we're talking about pilots here. In wartime, half the time they mistake a destroyer for a cruiser.
Yeah.
Or motor
torpedo. Class are especially cruel about that.
Yeah. Very quickly. I'd like to, wrap up and move on if that's all right with people. We have questions to get through.
Absolutely
I'm not sure. Cyclic, do you agree with him?
This is my show. I don't.
Wrapping up and moving on.
Look, just do so.
I'm being nice. I don't have to be.
I mean, look, I'm here and I'm playing Helldivers too, okay?
Oh my goodness, this man is diving into hell.
We've actually have a Helldivers 2 question coming up in a bit.
Oh boy.
Admiral quite simple. Hood asked.
Admiral Wellesley asks, thoughts on this, the Janssen Enfield Mark 1, which I am about to put up on stream, and it has to be, in my humble opinion, the single most cursed firearm I have ever seen, apart from certain other ones. Who came up with this?
Without question, the most certain worst cursed firearm I've ever seen, apart from these ones. Did that make any sense to anyone else?
No, it didn't make sense. I do sometimes feel that, Fleet asks for grammar and proper English from the people asking questions. He's got to set the example himself.
Yeah, but it's when I do it, it's comedic and funny.
To be fair,
you've got to forgive Fleet. English isn't his first language.
Hey, you hominy shall just a minute.
To be fair, it
is the first language for Boot. It's not the first language for Fleet.
I meleeed a hell bomb, so it was perfectly timed.
Are you trying to die?
Yes, he is trying to die.
Thoughts? On the aesthetics of that rifle, why would you combine a wooden?
Actually,
no, stop.
Somebody show him one of the.
It's like
contract AR-10s that's wood and
yeah, pretty much.
It's like an M14, but worse.
No, it's AR-10 is far better. It's one of the best battle rifles out there when you look at it.
No,
because of how it handles its recoil.
No, I'm talking
He's talking about the aesthetic of the thing, but
that's basically an AR-10.
It's basically an AR-10, but
yeah,
I know.
Different with different fittings.
It's kind of weird that they decided to keep the Enfield front stock.
Yeah, that's my problem. It's like it's
like, to be fair,
I don't like mixing. I don't like mixing the aesthetics. Like if it was just an AR-10, I'd be fine. Like I don't mind the AR-10. I know what it looks like. But that just mixing the classically Enfield with a modern battle rifle. No, stop. Why are you doing this? There are separate design lineages. Like a bolt action is a bolt action, and a battle rifle is a battle rifle, and we do not mix them. You don't mix.
Enfield made really good barrels, though.
Fundamentally speaking, there's nothing different between this and AK-47.
Well, except it's a full power rifle cartridge, but
it's not.
What is that?
7.92 by 33. I don't know why it's 7.92 by the way.
They put it in the freaking German.
Yeah,
okay. That's what irritates me about this.
Yeah,
angry cycling.
They cut down Visa ammunition instead of 303.
Oh,
well, I mean, just do 308, but
yes.
Yeah. So, so very quickly back to YouTube. So now Knight 6831. For Foxo, not missed anything this time. We're good. We're where we should be. Given the RN gets so little time working with the commander, would that not be something he'd want to address? Fleet's got it. Fleet's back on track. Hey, track pun. Hey.
You say you're back on track?
Track. T-R-A.
I just heard you say crack.
No, I'm just going to ask that. He is aware the commander is the player character, right?
I think so, yes.
The player character gives attention to the ship the player chooses. You could be like me, who only cares for the Royal Navy ships. Well, the Royal Navy battleships, carriers, and destroyers. I hate the cruisers.
Okay.
What have the cruisers done to disappoint you, Sir Foxo?
No love for the...
don't like the maid aesthetic.
I think she just doesn't like maids.
Well, no, actually, that's a genuine. I can accept that too. What about the few cruisers who aren't maids then? Like, what's your opinion on Drake? Like, what's your opinion on HMS Drake?
Drake's cool because she's not a maid. It's the maid.
Why did they make the cruisers maids?
I don't know.
They serve the Queen. They're the Royal Navy maid who serves Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth.
It's sort of based off a part of the royal household, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well, the destroyers were called the maids all what though historically. So why,
ridiculous
RPM.
I'm just going to post an image of what HMS Drake looks like to see the difference.
You have to, because Azure Lane destroyers are, a tad bit too small.
Yeah,
no, it depends on which one as well. Also, you've got other, to be fair, Foxo, looking at it, of cruisers who are classed as maids in the Royal Navy, currently, you have Edinburgh Bell, most of the town. Well, yeah, I'll just say the town class in general to make that easier. Mm-hmm. Some of the Dido class being ships like Scylla and Sirius. But then you've also got the non-maid corps, including ships like Swiftshore, Belladonna, Devonshire, Dorsetshire, Penelope. Sheffield, definitely one of them. I've seen the wrong one. Glasgow, Galatia, Fiji, and Arethusa. So there is a bit of a mix between maid and not maid. It seems mostly the heavy cruisers are not.
Who made or not to made? That's the question.
And some of the light cruisers are, but not all. Like
some of the
Leanders and the Arethusas, for instance, are not. And only half of the Dido class are.
It's a lot of the older designs as well.
They've been trying to diversify the Royal Navy a bit more since the early days.
And the maid corps, because the battleships are pretty much the officer corps. Look at
honestly,
some of the designs for the KGVs. They look like Victorian officers.
Yeah, HMS King George V is explicitly said to be they are Knight Commander of the Royal Navy. Because
I might know why Knight 6831 likes them so at this point.
To be fair, genuinely, I actually think the cruisers are pretty decent. Like, overall, their personalities are good, and most of their designs are actually pretty reasonable.
Excellent.
In the story, the commander rarely has any work with the HMS faction. That's not true, actually. I would point... He has to mostly deal with Eagle Union, because that's apparently where Naval HQ is. But he has a lot of backroom deals with Royal Navy.
But you also got, if you go off from the loose thing what we know of canon, the Royal Navy is pretty much self-organizing.
Yeah, they will do what they want for what they need.
Eagle Union's a mess.
Eagle Union has to suffer from the fact that they're the ones with Naval HQ. That arguably are against humanity.
Very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, those not of a gender, and those looking to switch gender, and those who have switched gender, and everyone
get on with it.
I am pleased to welcome, for the first time, to Ramblings, the one, the only, the Ruinon. Welcome. Welcome to Ramblings. For the first time. Welcome.
I've been on Ramblings once before, Fleet. It was about a month or two ago.
Oh, come on!
Yep. I was waiting for him to realise this one.
Wait,
I may have done.
Never disappoint.
Fleet forgets a lot of things.
How are you doing today, Runon?
I'm not dead yet.
I hope you're getting enough sleep, I hope.
Ruinon's not dead yet! Yippee!
Don't need to sound so
what
excited.
What do you mean dead yet?
Hey, people aren't dead.
Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't the only one who was worried about that particular one.
Yeah,
I was looking at Trenchfoot hasn't claimed her yet.
Trenchfoot? What?
What?
But yes, the combination of stamped, milled, and forged receiver on that rifle. Why?
Yes, more shame heaped upon the rifle.
Stand mags on top of that again.
More shame on the rifle.
Why? Anyway.
So, very quickly. So, back to the questions. So, on the Discord, Zubikaku asks, when it comes to modernizing World War II and pre-war carriers for built and theoretical jet aircraft, Akagi, Kaga, Hiryu, Soryu, Chicago, Taiho, Lexington, and the Yorktowns, and we already know how the illustrious conversions went. Japanese aircraft, R2, and Kika, US jet aircraft, Phantom 1, and the Panther. Could you technically modernize the listed jet aircraft, listed carriers for jet aircraft operations, or is it completely null? Chicago, Taiho, the Lexington.
You could, but why spend the money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ships are clapped out.
Yeah,
theoretically speaking, let's go with that.
Yeah, the only vessel that would have long-term potential post-war would be Taiho, because she's a newer ship. If she survived the conflict and somehow was retained, she's the vessel that I could see being taken forward, possibly angled decked at some point in her career. And I know you don't need angled decks to operate early jet aircraft, it was just an observation. Just making that clear, Fleet knows you don't need angled decks to operate jet aircraft in the immediate post-war environment.
It does make it a lot easier, though.
It does,
yes.
Yeah.
It does.
You could absolutely angle deck a Lexington, though. It'd be funky, but you could do it.
Keep up the mess.
To be fair, Lexington, you could do all sorts of random stuff, too.
Funny. I think the Hiryus, the Soryus are too small to operate, especially the R2Y2.
Are they? How big are they compared to? How big are they compared?
They're smaller
to the
than the Aztecs.
That's not what I was saying. I was going to ask how big are they compared to the 1942 light fleets? Because the 1942 light fleets could operate jet aircraft.
Might be smaller than them.
So that's why I'm just asking, because off the top of my head, I have no clue.
The other thing about some of those light fleets, particularly the ones that served longer, is because of how things shook out, they ended up gaining a lot more growth room than the original concept.
I know, but from what I'm aware, some of them operated jet. From what I'm aware, some of these carriers operated jets incredibly earlier. Though, so I'm just meaning in terms of
they have the room. Like some of these ships are light fleet in name of program. When you compare them to some of their contemporary fleets.
Hiryu and Soryu could they're about the same size as the Colossus.
Okay, so they could potentially do so. I do say potentially. I'm not.
You're not operating a lot of them. That's for sure.
You're probably also. Would you have to redesign the lifts on them, or?
Oh yeah,
probably need to do a lot more than that. I don't think.
Well, that's just the one that immediately jumps to mind. Is would these actually be able to even use?
I don't think the wooden decks is going to be very happy about.
Wooden decks would almost certainly want to be strengthened.
And at that
replaced.
Stage, we do not know. We do not know whether can the Hiryu and the Soryu hull take a metal deck?
Hiryu, Soryu, potentially hull could. They've got enough spare rigidity in them. Ryujo, anything of that era. Lord help you, no. Can I say no a few more times? And no, and no, and no, and no, and just no, and no.
Please save us, no.
Can somebody bring Phoenix back into the conversation?
Yes, yes, I absolutely can.
Fleet, did you kick out Phoenix when you brought in Runon? That was
no, Phoenix accidentally left.
Yeah, I know their Discord said they were having an internet issue, so I'm wondering if that.
Although I do have one question for our esteemed host and moderator, lead person, human host lover.
Oh wow, I am all of these
He's
things.
not a moderator.
Yeah, well, apart from that.
Fleet, notionally, he's supposed to be moderating the discussion. Whether or not that is true or not, I'll let other people decide. Fleet, are you? Is that a wardrobe in your camera angle, or are you sharing your living quarters with a CT cabinet?
I'm not. My camera is not running.
No, it's referring to a meme that was posted from.
Where is this? Where is this?
No.
Spiteful posted it 2020 to 2031.
That is the door from which the spirit of Hosh enters his room.
Nope.
I want to say that might have been armchair.
That's not what happens.
Sure, Fleet.
It comes up from under his bed. What did you expect it to store?
No, that doesn't happen either.
Yeah.
Also, what are you working on, Runon? I initially thought it was a Hellblaster, but then it didn't quite look right. Is this for more Space Dwarfs?
Yes.
Ah, the Iron Brew boys.
The Brutan clan.
Oh, not that image. I was rolling my eyes, and he happened to capture it at the exact wrong moment, and I never hear the end.
Fleet, I watched that image, and it was not just a rolling of the eyes.
That's what happens when you put your face on the internet.
Yes. This happens on a shockingly regular basis. But hey, I don't mind. I don't mind. Memes are funny.
You gave Petchington an easily exploitable image.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen what
was going to
happen? What's it called? Not Pet. Well, yeah, Petch is done with all the Clark stuff.
Yes, I am aware
Like,
because
This was inevitable.
I used to be used as his Fleet. Is this funny? Every new meme, he would come and find and say, "Fleet, is this funny?" And usually my answer was, "Yes, Petch, it's funny."
Let's keep going before Friday's list becomes too long.
Well, don't worry, Moe. Until Gunnery Officer posted the questions, we were down to about 6 questions.
So
that's why.
That was your operation. So next.
Also, I have made poor financial decisions.
Habada.
I am a poor financial decision.
That is a horrible.
You have been arming up your Churchill tank.
No. Better.
Yes, acquired.
I think this is the next question.
Oh, good
and
lord.
I think my
it's
answer.
the cheapest I've ever seen it.
The answer is.
And I think my answer may cause a riot. Knight6831 asks, does Fleet enjoy YouTubers? Okay, I will admit I do have a slight guilty pleasure. I may be a Shy Lily Clips enjoyer on occasion. I may enjoy watching.
I don't even know who you're referring to.
Shy Lily occasionally.
Okay, that's fine. But my mum still says she saw you writing "bow bow" in the Vermoka birthday stream.
Can confirm, not me. I am.
He recognised your tag. Because she said there aren't that many people going around with Hosh on a French flag.
It most definitely. It most definitely wasn't me. I can tell you that much.
Someone with your
I don't think I believe Fleet on this one.
Was either pretending to be you or was you?
If it's someone pretending to be me, that's slightly worrying. If it's actually my account,
that's more worrying.
We have bigger problems. Yeah.
It's all right. We'll tie you down to a chair and force feed you whole life stuff.
No,
honestly, I'm just gonna force the confession.
What do you mean force the confession? There is no confession.
Honestly, it's more worrying that somebody would want to steal Fleet's identity.
Yes, that's why I don't believe it. I'm sure it was Fleet who was writing "bow bow."
I don't even know who this person is or what they look like.
I'm Fleet, the traditional defense of every politician.
I'm more concerned with the person who said, "Yes, I would like to be known as somebody who loves the Hosh."
Yes, because that's not a controversial thing to say.
No. You say that like yesterday. I didn't see someone coming to bat for the Dantons of all ships.
Don't. Can we not? Like,
wasn't that Fleet?
Look. I didn't know about the whole wing turrets being knocked out whenever they fired.
Sounds very French.
Look. If we keep talking about Fleet's bad ship
I'll be
design,
honest.
if we keep talking about Fleet's bad ship designs and Fleet's bad choices when it comes to ships he likes, we already have Dr. Clark. I really don't want to summon Drakdown.
I mean, isn't that the whole point of this podcast?
Yes.
While I get,
I thought this podcast was question Fleet's maritime aesthetic choices and answer naval history questions.
Well,
just questions.
I understand the French dreadnoughts were bad, but you could have at least looked at them because they actually look somewhat reasonable, even if they were awful.
I mean, if we want to talk with the best pre-dreadnought ever built, it's the Radetzkys. They're fantastically good looking, and they are the best pre-dreadnoughts ever built, bar none.
Huh?
But are they a snazzy dresser?
Yes.
We've got some fighting words to Agamemnon.
Yeah, the Agamemnons don't even.
Agamemnon will nom you.
No, the Agamemnons don't even come. Yeah, I'm sorry. No, the last generation of British pre-dreadnoughts pale in comparison to what the Radetzkys are capable of. They're better armored, better armed, faster.
Fleet, apparently I did not like your response so much that I dropped all my fries.
Forgive me if I'm wrong, but aren't those the one that built in the Age of the Dreadnought?
Yes.
The Radetzkys.
Yeah, it doesn't change the fact that they are still the best pre-dreadnoughts ever built.
So the Radetzkys are being built when Dreadnought's in the water?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, most of the last generation of pre-dreadnoughts are.
Yeah,
Yes,
nobody,
like,
almost
even the Lord
only a few
Nelsons were.
countries
And
built.
I will point out.
To be fair, that's because the Lord Nelsons were delayed.
And I will point out the Austrians were doing the correct thing of walking before they can run. It's only because the Radetzkys are as well thought out and built the way they are that you get the Tegetovs. Building the Radetzkys as their first
Tegetovs aren't good at all.
Yeah, it's like sort of like we're gonna start running and we trip over our ankles.
Although
fall into a pile of pig waste.
Although
the Radetzkys were
the
definitely
Tegetovs are bad.
Wow, I can't believe we're all agreeing on that. I will agree the Radetzkys are arguably the best Austrian battleships ever built.
Hud says, "Don't forget the pile of rusty needles."
What do you mean the pile? Oh, yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, so next makeup question. So where was I?
Where was that question? Apparently, I didn't get on the document from Knight.
Where?
Are you a fan of Soviet brutalist architecture by any chance?
Certainly not.
Do you look at a comic book?
I think Fleet's ideal apartment complex is a Khrushchevka.
What? Absolutely not.
No. Hosh. Okay, Hosh is many things, but it's not brutalism. That's an insult to brutalism. Yeah. It's surrealism.
Look at this Tegetov he just waxed and waned about.
No. I waxed and waned about the Radetzkys, not the Tegetovs.
It's what happens. The Hosh is what happens when you let Dali, Salvador Dali, or a previous incarnation of the same, design a warship, and then you get Hosh.
This never ends. This never ends.
It never will.
I am the only one that gets to go musical on this show.
Hosh isn't designed by a human. Hosh is if someone sent back a plan for a pre-dreadnought that were generated by ChatGPT.
I mean, Hosh is well, honestly,
Foxo, I might almost call that an insult to ChatGPT.
The funny thing is, she's not far off since Hosh was designed by committee over a course of 10 years.
Foxo, I hate to tell you this, but I'm pretty certain that at one point in a brew ship somewheres, Dr. Clark went and generated an image of Hosh. Using a large language model, and it looked better.
We do not talk about that abomination.
Yeah, we do, because Hosh is also an abomination.
She is not. She's better than that AI garbage.
Oh boy.
No.
Brandon,
I would like to make a point. On behalf of my fellow abominations, do not associate Hood with us, or else you'll be getting a letter.
Whoa, hold on. Whoa. Oh, she said it.
Well, no. Still correct with Hood, because Hood is not an abomination.
No, she is. She's a dimensional abomination.
I'm referring to the real life Hood.
Oh, right. You have to refer to multiple hoods.
So very
How
quickly.
Many hoods do, oh god.
So very quickly.
We do a lot of hoods.
So this will be this is I need to take a 2-minute sabbatical. I'll be back in a second once I've asked this question. So I'm going to leave it to the panel to answer because it's fairly simple. It's not simple, but it is simple.
Get on with the question then.
Oh boy.
Brandon Larson. No, don't you dare do a Monty Python sketch on me. Brandon Larson.
Yes, Minister. Of course, Minister.
You are the Monty Python sketch.
That is a compliment. Brandon Larson asks, "You're in charge of the People's Republic of China in the 1980, and are charged with tasking the build-up of your military for a completely conventional war over the eastern part of Siberia." Starting in 1995, after a rapid escalation between China and the Soviet Union/Russia. China's nominal GDP in 1980 was 451.78 billion yuan, or 2.65 billion in US dollars. China's GDP growth in the 1980s was rapid, with a high of 15.2% in 1984. What do you build, and then what is your overall strategy for this hypothetical war, and how do you foresee the war to go? I'm dipping out! See you in 2 minutes!
Is that the one I responded with, like, nothing different than they did?
Yes.
So...
Yeah, so that's exactly what you do. Because that was their threat
The original
scenario.
question has changed. That has changed from the original question.
The original question was in the 70s. Where
the original question when I copied it was in charge and it wasn't edited. Was in 1980. It has to build it up with resource starting in 95 and just didn't mention it.
We went back and edited it.
No, so that must be
the original question was the 1970s.
Is that right? Yeah. Does things change now that it's in the 80s?
No,
not really.
Didn't think so.
Because they were built. That was the war they were built for.
Gunner Officer, you posted. You said question 13 twice.
Oh, also, Richelieu is asking if someone can repeat what was said about wing turrets, knocked out wing turrets.
Oh, yeah, about how on the Dantons when they fired the wing turrets, they'd knock the other side's wing turrets out.
How? And I know the answer is
pressure
recoil,
wave.
But
recoil,
how?
Pressure wave.
Yeah, do we have a source on that?
I'm going to say is...
I want to say Clark brought it up a while ago, but I can't exactly remember what source he listed. But he did give a source I want to say at the time.
You say it in the way the kids would understand. When one wing turret fired, the other wing turret failed the vibe check.
No. Please don't say that again.
How accurate that is. I hate that. I hate that, Fox.
I'm back.
Oh, that's horrible.
What did I miss?
Nothing.
Foxo just made an absolutely atrociously accurate Zoomer slang statement.
Well, so
when one wing turret fired, the opposite wing turret failed the vibe check.
So Phoenix, did you understand that?
I mean, I understand what was being gunned for there, but.
So, do you want me to just grab the next question?
No, it would just be interesting if we had more details on exactly what the supposed flaw with turrets was.
Chandler
I don't think Clark's here currently.
Yeah,
but we can ask him
Chandler
when he gets
Lord Chandler asks, fun question. Henry's check.
You're not great at this, are you?
You forget, I'm 22. I can use Zoomer slang.
I get on my level. I'm 26.
The only thing I remember from Vibe Check was growing up was shouting Vibe Check and then kneeing somebody in the nuts. But
yeah, that's where it starts. Really, I mean, this is
Channel Lord
the slang.
So I haven't missed any on YouTube. Channel Lord Chandler asks, fun question. How strong of a current do we need to have an Iowa-class battleship going full speed ahead to sail backwards?
Your answer is 33 knot current, which is one hell of a current.
One hell of a current.
Montana, we can do something about Foxo being a Zoomer as soon as the U.S. Navy actually completes a Montana class.
Not even just Montana class, a ship called Montana.
We have a sub called Montana.
Has it hit the water yet?
Yes.
I believe it's been launched, yes.
The nukes must fly.
Montana finally has her ship.
It's an attack sub fleet.
Yeah,
excellent. So, let me just check what the pings are, because if someone's pinged me, it should be...
Nobody pinged you.
Brandon Larson pinged me. Apparently for the number 27. Good.
It's not a minute you got left for you arrives at your house.
Is only 27, but we don't know if he's 27 years, 27 centuries, 27 minutes, seconds, hours, days.
Is it
millennia?
Oh, I'm sorry. I have to do it. Is he in fact the Legend 27? Is he in fact the Legend 27?
Fleet?
What?
Fleet.
I don't even know what you're referring to there.
See, it rings a bell, and that's what scares me.
Fleet, the boomers call. They want their joke back.
No, never.
Fleet, if you're gonna make jokes that age, complain about your wife again.
What wife?
That he doesn't have.
Is there?
Exactly.
Foxo.
Yeah?
Clean over his head.
Yep.
Of course it is.
Okay, so,
Are you still writing the second part of that question, I assume, Mark? That says 1/2.
So, next question on YouTube is Discord. I mean, so that was that. So, yep.
You know, I'm going to parrot something that was said in the YouTube chat earlier. That if only you had, if only you had, you know, a nice system set up in place that, you know, records the questions for you and then deposits them in order.
Dragon, do you honestly believe my Steam-powered, coal-driven, made
It doesn't have to be run by your computer, Fleet.
No, isn't it even on?
Don't you have a phone?
Runon, can you please educate this guy?
I don't think Runon's there at the moment.
Darn
Hey,
it.
I step away for like not even 15 seconds, and I hear that I need to educate Fleet. And the last thing I heard out of Fleet was steam-powered, coal-fired, whatever.
Sorry, Runon. Did you hear the bit about the me making that there's a comment in the YouTube chat that you should listen
skims his
to
stuff and throws them in order in a channel for him?
It's not like he's got a perfectly working one or anything that deposits them all in nicely order.
The problem is I
need help.
I have to wait until I shift servers because I am not setting up that infrastructure.
I know, but it's a comment Runon meant. It's a comment Runon made in the YouTube chat. So of course I'm going to play.
Fleet, you could set one up in your server, running to a channel that we can see in your server, and all we got to do is look at that for the questions.
Yeah. If only someone.
You don't have to shift over to that server yet for it.
The fact that that makes sense. B is simple. 3 is logical. 4 is incredibly smart, and 5, I didn't think of it. Well,
we know. You don't need to finish the rest of the statement, please. Preserve my brain cells.
Fleet, would you like to know the rest of the statement? And if I hear a loud boom from America's appendage, I'll know exactly what happened.
I'm not in that part of the state.
I've already done all of the integration work, and all you have to do is update it. All I have to do is push you the .13 update, and you have to install it, and it will work.
Quiet Fleet whistling noises in the background. I will do this.
Okay, Rowie,
right,
you've got to remember, Fleet can't drag and drop files properly.
Yes, I can.
That's true.
You know you can't.
Yes, I can.
I'm playing Stellaris with you. No, you
The problem with Zoomers, you give them a zip file, they don't know what the hell to do with it.
Fleet, we have actively tried to show you to do stuff, and you have failed doing it before.
No, I haven't. You're the ones I've had to show how to drag and drop files properly.
Fleet, no. And also, Fleet, remind me who. Remind me, Fleet. Yeah, I was about to say, remind me who still can't use JSONs correctly.
I have been using JSONs correctly.
And yet on multiple occasions, you fail.
Walk over to the gun safe.
No.
You know,
moving on.
That is an entirely accurate meme in regards to Fleet.
The last
Even if
version
cleaning
of Powder
your
Monkey,
firearms makes you feel better.
The last version of Powder Monkey I sent you was .10 with a complete PDF install instructions, and that was at the beginning of December.
Oof. You don't have an excuse if it's got an actual PDF.
And I think .10 had the 'Ertsats timestamps on it. and then let's see what I've got in the development server.
Okay. I'm going to move on now. I'm going.
Okay, then Fleet. Right. What's the next question then?
So,
I sent it to you twice.
The next question is a. Is
Do you remember what?
To vibe on my knees. Oh.
What? I don't want to. No, we're not doing that.
Not that one.
Right.
Or is it to vibe on my knees?
Oh boy.
Come on, Fleet. Next question.
Where are we?
Oh, Poseidon. Honestly, Poseidon, that just makes me. Actually, let's see. Can I find the GIF of that?
The question is on Discord because the last one was on YouTube. I think I'm 95% sure it was on YouTube. 95% sure.
So, Poseidon,
yes,
that is all that makes me think of.
Yes, it was. Okay.
Hello, computer.
The question, for God's sake, Discord.
I'm gonna rewatch that film.
Come on.
The next question.
Well, how do we not know he invented it, Yuki? He could be the person who invented transparent aluminium.
Oh wow! The next question is, yes, Specific Nautical. Was there a single ship ever built that could survive Admiral Lee getting the drop on them like Kirishima at Guadalcanal? The unauthorized
that range, those guns. No.
Yeah. The unauthorized history of the Pacific War crew seem to think Yamato might survive the ambush, but I'm skeptical. Also assume the ship gets ambushed as the other ship's radar might survive the engagement, not getting ambushed, but that's not supposed to be my question. Well, no. Yamato won't survive the engagement. She might be able to get a few rounds off.
She'd take Sodak down with her. But she's not surviving the ambush.
No.
And trading a battleship is particularly of that nature is not not a good thing for Japan.
No. You've lost the Yamato. What did you think? A single U.S. fast battleship? Oh. That's not good. So, YouTube question. I don't.
The fact that he genuinely has memorized the formula for transparent aluminium.
I don't think.
I've just got a quick question for chat.
Given
how it's gone down in price to only 100 gaijin, do I buy the T30?
No. It's up to you.
It's a good tank, but it's not worth that much.
But also, do not feed the snail.
I literally just fed the snail.
Do not feed.
I wish you didn't.
And also, the entire reason she wants to do this is to one-up me. So
yeah,
it's a good tank, but it's not worth that much money.
Yeah.
I hate to inform you of this, but the text chat is roasting you severely.
You know, honestly, I don't mind.
And actually, I have to say, the Canadian has the biggest war crime and the funniest meme.
Do you know what, Ruinon? I actually don't mind. This is just par for the course with ramblings. It's fine. I'm fine. This is fine.
How much does the 279 go for these days? Probably a lot.
1,200, I think.
So I'm just booting up the market to check now.
This is fine.
I needed a good.
This is fine.
I needed a good.
Next question.
I needed a good laugh today.
Yep, come on, Fleet.
The next question is on the
10-12 from away.
On the YouTube. Ooh, I think it's a goodie. USS Montana 67 asks, how did the United Kingdom get irradiated in the Helldivers universe, and what happens to HMS Belfast in the same universe?
There was a worldwide nuclear war, basically.
Yeah.
And the only nations that vaguely survived it intact were the U.S. and Chinese.
That explains a lot.
Vaguely.
That explains a lot.
So, are you telling me that the pictures of life on Super Earth are not
completely manufactured?
Yes.
Down with Super Earth.
Well, so there's hints in the first game that Super Earth is not the original Earth.
Yeah.
It's in the wrong place, isn't it? On the galaxy map?
Yes.
The galaxy map isn't even necessarily accurate, so that should tell you something.
The issue with it is that the model used for Super Earth when you're losing the campaign does not match the continents of Earth.
Mm-hmm.
However, in Helldivers 2, it does.
Also, we do know Helldivers 2 is technically speaking it is an actual sequel from what we're aware. It's just some bits are a little bit weird.
It's 100 years into
Current
the future,
consensus
though.
is that Super Earth of Helldivers is one of two split timelines. One timeline is when Earth wins, one is when they lose. And that's what the giant big black hole portal is for.
Well, the black hole portal was man-made. Welcome back, Clark.
In completely different news. Sorry, I had to go clean up. My sister had been ill, and I had to go clean it up.
Oh dear.
She wasn't in the state to clear it up. She's okay.
What have you just found?
But if you go to the boarding ramp, i.e. the entry point to my Discord, you will find a link to a job which I think Fleet might want to consider applying for. Lots of people might want to consider applying for.
Name historical researchers.
If it was part-time, I'd be considering putting into employer, or if the pay was more, I'd consider putting.
It does mention part-time. It does mention working pattern part-time.
I don't think I have the quals for this.
I'd still put in your CV. It could be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fleet. Never underestimate the ability of people picking somebody not qualified for a job.
Yeah. And hey, Fleet, apparently this would be working primarily in Portsmouth, so you'd be able to have some fun down there.
I don't know if I want to move.
And it'd be civil service pay scale in the UK.
Fleet.
Yeah, honestly, this is not a bad job.
Yeah.
By any means.
Fleet. I'm looking at what I presume is the
no, Fleet. I'm sorry, Fleet can't succeed for it. He has to pass a behaviors CV, including has to be able to see the bigger picture. The problem is, if he even mentions Hosh.
Yes.
Oh, come on, that's not fair!
They just keep Hosh out of his field of view. That's
they might go, well, I'm sorry, but you're too busy focused on the French. Their desk's over there.
But I still think he should put in an application for it.
I mean,
it's quite nice.
Yeah,
it's a nice place to live. It economically, it's quite nice. It's got a bit of a student community, a good student town. It's got some nice history there. It's got a nice navy bit. It's right on the coast. It's quite nice. It's a nice place to live. Yes, there are parts of Portsmouth, like there are parts of any city and town, which frankly you probably wouldn't want to live in. But there are lots of parts which are very, very nice, and even the parts you might not be keen on living in aren't that bad, if you know what I mean. They're not. I'm going to get stabbed every 5 minutes. They're, these are really badly designed houses. I wouldn't want to prevent a living.
Why do you guys get 25 days paid leave?
Because we do.
That's the UK. Yeah, that's the UK minimum. That's the UK minimum. It usually adds on as you get longer in your career, so that's the starting amount.
I would like to get away from Canada.
I would like to get away from the US.
Moving on.
It's a good job if you're interested.
Honestly, I would rather Ruinon take it because she needs it more than me.
Does she?
Yes, but Fleet, you are never going to get an American citizen into a UK civil service job which they are not specialized in. And you shouldn't.
They clearly
unless you know the right people.
Yes, but that's true of any position. There's a reason I call myself the post turtle.
The what?
Of ship shape. But it's an American idiom, Fleet. It's essentially you see a turtle on top of a post. You don't know how it got there. The turtle doesn't know how it got there, but it sure as shit didn't get there on its own.
Fair enough. That's a pretty good idiom.
Language.
I like that. Language, not cyclic. We're cyclic. This is ramblings. There is no
right.
Oh, I thought because Clark was here.
No.
Yeah.
This is still my show.
I have to point out, £36,500 a year is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I like the £10,000 contribution.
Oh, and looking at who your chain of leadership would be, etc., and who you're in charge, who you'd be reporting to, you'd have a lovely time. They're lovely people.
36,000. What? What do you mean £36,000 is horrific?
That's the starting salary.
I didn't say
that
horrific.
Is amazing.
I didn't say horrific.
You mean versus USD? No, we never said.
And the civil service. And the civil service pension contribution is literally $10,000 a year going into the pension. So you're getting a 28.9% civil service pension. So you're getting also $10,000 a year, pretty much going into your pension at the same time.
On average, that's about $45,250 a year.
Yeah. So Fleet, if you count the pension contribution, you're getting paid only $10,000 a year less than I am.
I don't know. I'd have to move a long way away from all of my family and contacts.
This might just be me being British, but £36,500 in Britain is an amazing salary.
It is. I'm not denying.
Yeah.
I don't.
His argument
it's why I'm curious. It's why I'm curious. Why that's such a bad thing in America?
Fleet.
So £36,000 is not $36,000.
Yeah, it's $45,000.
That's not good in the U.S.
That's why.
That's because
that's less than what I make, and I'm pretty tight on money. So
yeah, but it depends on where you live, though.
I live
in a state where I don't even have income tax.
There's costs and differentials you have in the US, because I have this conversation with American academics all the time when we're teaching universities, and I sit there and go, "You have a higher pay, but you have to pay more out." We have, and especially one of the things I find often adds up is sales tax. Oh my God, the sales tax is added to cost of living in the States versus the UK.
That is something I always found weird.
Yeah, and it depends on where you are too.
I always never understood why you don't just have VAT added on the price tag to begin with.
It's so weird sometimes when you go into an American store, because none of the prices are actually the prices it appears.
I have been to America a few different times, and that was always something that did surprise me.
It drives me up the wall sometimes, because I realise the people who are used to it, it probably doesn't make that much difference to you. You're used to it.
Yeah.
But for someone who's not grown up with that and is going, so that's the price. No, that's not the price. And you're just going, I hate you, world, because I had a budget in my head and I worked out what I was spending, and now that's not going to be what I was spending. And I have to do maths while also shopping. This is not fair. I don't like shopping, and I don't like doing maths at the best of times when it's just for numbers. It's not for something interesting like ships.
I like doing maths, but to me it's far easier for you just to be able to go into a shop and it tells me every single price tag of what it actually costs right then and there, instead of so that's how much this costs then right now. I need to add this to it and then this. And again, this is entirely a UK versus US thing, which is why I'm actually curious. It's always interesting to know the difference.
To give context for at least a private corporation employee, at my last job, I brought home about $1,000 a week, and $75 of that went to health insurance. I am single. I have no dependents, and despite upkeep needs like HRT and my ADHD medication, I am in good health. So I was spending $75 a week in health insurance, on top of $80 a month, so I could go keep my doctor. And I lose about 20% of my paycheck on average. It's probably going to go up a little bit this year because I'm getting paid more now to taxes, both state and federal taxes. And that's on top of a 5 to 10% sales tax on everything I buy in the state of Virginia.
And for the pension scheme, by the way,
because fun fact in Virginia, it's not a state. There's a state sales tax, but there's also local tax at the county level.
Yeah, real moving down from
to just add a bit of fun extra onto it on the pension scheme. And this is the thing which is always interesting about civil service jobs and why I'm interested in them occasionally. It's because if you work for 20 years, you get if you work for 20 years at a salary of just £22,000 a year, you get a $10,500 a year pension. If you work for 40 years at that same salary, you get a $20,500 a year pension. So you get an almost final salary pension if you work for 40 years for the civil service.
Lee, that comment on YouTube implies you ever were in control of your own show.
There was a point long ago in the history of Ramblings.
No, there wasn't.
Where Fleet was actually in control.
No. Is this like my grandfather's generation when it had true chivalry, when knights were really chivalrous?
No,
knights always claimed it was their grandparents' generation which had it. Fleet always says there was a time long ago when I ran my show.
No, I do. I remember, like, the first time.
In the nicest way, Fleet, Foxo, and Dragon have always been here.
No, they haven't.
Not all.
No, they haven't.
No, actually,
they haven't,
I will entirely openly say we haven't, but we've been here for at least quite a while at this point, but not.
I think
I had like 2 years without.
About 35 ramblings.
No,
so remember,
and like,
because I remember I got on hit first time by annoying Fleet.
Like, it's important to bear in mind that
like I annoyed him until he let me off, and I've just stuck around ever since.
Until like up to the second anniversary of Ramblings, it was just me and occasionally some special guests. Like Drac would occasionally flashbang me by dropping in out of nowhere like an atom bomb from the clear blue sky, as he still does sometimes.
And keeps threatening to do to brew ships.
I wish he would. It'd be interesting.
I see no problems with this.
Yeah, neither do I. Although moderating chat's going to be fun.
To be fair, I don't mind a Drac flashbang every now and then. It's kind of fun when he drops in out of nowhere.
It is fun. But if the entire ship-shape crew jump into brew ships one happy Sunday afternoon, poor Runon's going to be having a nightmare when they open up the questions.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I don't think I'll ever get the full ship-shape crew in Ramblings, but it's a nice hope.
Isn't that
that's because it's a Monday evening, and there are enough of us working on a Monday evening that we have trouble with it.
I understand.
Dr. Clark, after hearing your valid complaints about U.S. sales tax methodologies, if you ever want me to, and as an American you don't, but if you ever want me to explain to you how U.S. health insurance works, you'll think our tax system is perfectly normal and sensible. And
considering the sheer cost of insurance when I go to America to do the things I do as a consultant, the working business health insurance I have to travel insurance I have to pay, I can imagine it's interesting.
Yo, interesting's a word for it. It's a word.
But that's the other thing again in the UK. It's just the NHS. Say what you like about it. There are advantages. One, I don't have to fill out so much paperwork every time I go to a hospital as I have in the US. And also, the other advantage I would say is at no point has anyone presented me with a bill.
At a different point, on a slightly different note, at Yuki, holodecks exist. Also, keep in mind, yes, Sulu had holodecks. We literally see holodecks used in Star Trek 2.
What, in motion picture?
Yeah, in Star Trek 2.
Yeah,
they have holodecks.
It was a plot device they invented to make a couple of scenes work.
It's where I gotta watch it again.
It's where you've got the whole thing of where they slipped in a number of the not Jonathan Frakes. What's his name? Did some of the original stuff. But Franz Joseph, it's where they slipped in some of the Franz Joseph designs and made Gene Roddenberry almost pop a blood vein.
Franz Joseph, what's he doing? I thought he was dead.
I think it is the Franz Joseph designs. I'm pretty sure.
What is he doing? I thought he was dead. You know, what's an Austrian emperor got anything to do with?
Wasn't it Franz?
No,
Franz Joseph, main person behind the Starfleet Technical Fleet Manual and the Star Trek Blueprints, which Gene Roddenberry explicitly wrote the rules of Star Trek ship design solely to spite this man because he didn't like him.
Wow.
Because he was the one who said, no, you have to do this, you have to do that, because I don't like what you're doing. And everyone else subsequently ignored him.
Right now.
People ignored Gene Roddenberry for that because so you're deliberately wanting to limit our creativity and fun because you're an asshole in this instance. Sure, okay.
In that instance?
In this, well, yes, it was this particular incident. Gene Roddenberry was an asshole in multiple other incidences as well.
On a completely different topic, but as we got Rune on here, I will say I've been seeing some of the images coming out of recent
a Hololive Minecraft server, mainly because my mum keeps sending me the pictures and going, "Do you think Runon will be able to serve a this?"
It's all right. No. This is a safe space.
So Runon,
this is a safe space. No.
Freaking server.
Would it be a good time to mention? Me and Foxo's server recently ran out in December, so we're actually looking for more Minecraft stuff.
No,
we've got a good number of mods.
This is it. Yeah,
actually,
this is
genuinely could actually, but
this is
the
a
fun in
safe
that.
space.
I will say this: the other thing is that the suggestion from my mum, which is having this, was that there should also be family members of the Shipshape crew involved, and they should be able to nominate members of what she's calling the junior crew to assist them in it. So she's already Packseed Foxo as hers.
I've got an idea, Clark. What if we actually install the Fire and Ice mod, which adds different types of dragons, so we have more than just the Ender Dragon to fight? You can deal with, Titanic Frost Dragons, where you can sail your aviation battleship coach.
My HMS Nubian will win against them all, but there again,
I don't know. These things have a lot of HP.
Construction of HMS will win.
Knock yourself out, kiddos.
I'm going.
To cry.
Whoever I'm with, we're building a submarine because of how particle effects work in Minecraft. If it's underwater, it can't be hurt.
I'm going.
This is true, actually. This is true, actually.
Yeah,
you can. A hard bullet chamber.
Also, I'm afraid Poseidon crying isn't a free action anymore because technically speaking, crying will take up time. So therefore, it would, if anything, at best, it's a bonus action.
Steak, what do you mean by another copy of Minecraft?
Because Steaks bought like 3 copies of Minecraft, and they don't currently have one for the PC.
So I
4 to 5, sorry. Yes, we've talked about this a couple of times. The latest server almost tempted Steak 2, but they managed to be able to basically push themselves away from the temptation of buying Minecraft again.
So very, very quickly, I am going to round off for the last 10 minutes with a question I've just seen as I've been scrolling up. But the reason I want to answer this is because it'll be very good for discussion, but it's also fairly simple, and also I can make a funny anecdote at the start of it. So your typical gunnery officer, question 12 on Discord, as the final question of the evening, asks, what if the USN decides to retire and scrap the first 2 Iowas and instead keeps the 2 Alaskas? Let me finish. I know you all want to jump on this, but let Fleet finish and get his quip in. Decided to retire and scrap the first 2 Iowas and instead keeping the 2 Alaskas since they're both newer and have relatively short service. Do you think the 2 Alaskas would serve later alongside the 2 Iowas until the 1980s like IRL? And would the 2 Alaskas be reactivated by Korea or even the Vietnam War? Well, first of all, the US Navy is going to turn around, look at the officer who suggested and carried this through, grab him by the neck, drag him to a corner, and put a pistol to his forehead. Because the...
Which question was this, sorry?
I think they
Gunnery officer, which one?
12, question 12.
12, right.
The reason that I say this is because the Alaskas cost 80% as much to run as an Iowa does, and they're not an Iowa. So why, in the name of all that is holy, would you scrap 2 intact battleships for a pair of glorified armored cruisers?
Particularly in a period where the battleship is still very much relevant.
Yeah.
I would also note that just very unlikely that they would even scrap the Iowas in the first place because they just would do it with almost every battleship after the war and just chuck them into reserve for a couple decades. I mean, let me pull it up here because I have this all down. Because a lot of even the standard battleships, right? I mean, hang on a second. Yeah, so even like a lot of this, the big 5 standards were not actually struck until March of 1959, right?
Yeah.
Which is only just after that they start ditching the older fast battleships, with the smaller ones. Sorry, the 27, 28 knot ones that either became scrapped or museum ships.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, and comparatively speaking, right, the Alaskas are what? Just double check this real quick.
We have more.
Okay, yeah, the Alaskas are actually broken up in 1961, so. That is, so they were in reserve for only just a bit longer. Yeah, the Alaskas are actually scrapped before the South Dakotas are by like a year or two. But
this is unsurprising. You literally have, as we said, something that costs almost as much to run as a battleship, gives you less capability compared to a battleship, is less survivable as a battleship, and
not just less, it's a lot less.
Yeah, a lot less survivable compared to a battleship, and you still have battleships. A lot of battleships, actually. 10 of them bloody things.
And also, too, you're going to run into an issue where if they get their 80s refit, or their Reagan era refit,
you can't actually fit anywhere near as many missiles on them.
Yeah, that's the problem. The Navy is going to look at these vessels and be like, cool. It's going to cost us probably almost as much to refit them as it would in Iowa. And we're not going to get the same amount of capability out of it.
Oh, speaking about non-deck penetrating missile fits for ships, etc., has anyone seen the graphic of the BAE new BAE system, which uses a Mark 41 Mark 41?
Yeah, the one that's replacing the 8 missile trainable launcher for ESSM.
Yeah. Yes. Has anyone seen that graphic? Which is someone's added those onto Wisconsin as a meme graphic.
Oh,
yes. Wisconsin gets the next wall refit. Is sort of going around. Yeah, can someone please make sure whoever's put that meme together is kept well away from the United States Congress, because that's the kind of wackadoodle idea
Congress
they might actually try and run with.
Concerned about with that.
He wouldn't.
Yeah, he would.
He has wanted to in the past.
Yeah,
but they're museums. They're not Navy property anymore.
And he's a failed real estate investor.
Yes, they are. All U.S. Navy ships turned into museum ships are still U.S. government property.
Yep.
Please no.
They're just administered by.
I think they're being leased out of assume, or
I think the only exception might be Texas. And Might is doing a lot of work in that statement.
What a horrifying
Texas
thought.
has an interesting relationship with the state of Texas.
You can't bring the Iowas back. The costs alone will be astronomical. Even he, with all of his power base, can't get that through Congress.
Wait,
I don't think
Just think of the ruling tool, my friend.
He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to get it through Congress.
That's
he actually knows what he's talking
about
in this regard.
Okay, Fleet, I will remind you that the White House just slapped a 25% tariff on our single largest importer of petroleum.
Hee.
Oh, and the single largest supplier of lumber for building in the United States.
Yes, but to some of my denser American companions, they may kind of shrug at lumber, but everybody buys gas.
Didn't he put a 10% ease on petroleum products?
No.
Like
Fleet, all we've been hearing so far. Now, again, I'm going from a UK perspective here, so some people who actually live in America probably know. Basically, it's tariff after tariff on pretty much anything and everything he can.
Yes.
Yeah. To basically anyone and everyone.
Yes.
And he's going to kill the U.S. car industry with the tariff on Mexico, too. So
I was about to say, didn't the automotive industry basically come out saying, if these go through, we're probably going to see the U.S. industry dead in a few weeks?
Yes.
I don't know if they were being hyperbolic there, and it might take longer than that, or...
Let me put it to you this way. Scenario. Ford's biggest selling vehicles in the U.S. are made in Mexico.
Ouch. That's going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. They're also the most affordable vehicles that Ford makes.
Now, remind me.
Being below about $35,000.
Now, since he likes to keep bringing this point up, I don't know why he's bringing it up, but remind me how this is meant to reduce the price of eggs?
It's not.
Because this is one of
It's an ideological thing. People do not have to be internally consistent in politics.
I figured as much, but it's just a case of... Really?
I'll talk to you some.
And just wait till you have the impacts on the wider global economy, because in the way the world,
the U.S. is one of the largest consumer markets on the planet.
It's going to cause all sorts of troubles, and he's just about to start targeting the EU.
Yep.
I'm almost right. So while this might be a bad
thing,
the
UK has a short reprieve at the moment for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. I'm not sure which gods Keir Starmer and the other leadership of the UK have been praying to.
For some reason,
but apparently we have a semi-reprieve.
For some reason, Trump seems to like Starmer, even though Musk hates him. So it's a weird dichotomy. But
as far as I'm aware, Starmer doesn't like Trump either.
No, of course
that might be why Trump likes him. Trump is unique.
Very.
But so
Trump
I'm almost
a special soul.
I know this is going to cause problems, but I almost wonder, might it potentially help Europe a bit in the long run of we need to stop relying so much on America?
No, Dragon. This is
I didn't think so, but
this is just going to hurt.
Have you met the European governments? No.
Regardless of Dragon, who else are they going to rely on? Because it ain't going to be themselves. Their nuclear deterrent in one country is not credible. Who else are they going to rely on?
Basically, theoretically,
they're going to have to start looking to relying on themselves a bit more. I know it's not going to work.
They can't. Unless they want to throw out the MPT.
Unless they can keep affording, but I don't think they can keep affording to rely on America. Surely.
Well, there is no choice. Like Dragon, this is just going to hurt. Like there is no getting around it. There is no silver lining, and I can't believe I'm the one saying this because usually I'm the one with the idiotic takes. But wow, reality makes strange bedfellows of us all. This is just going to hurt. Everybody, without exception, it's gonna suck, and I don't know where it's gonna lead us.
And hey, it could get worse.
4 years.
Greenland could escalate.
And remember, people keep saying it's me and Fox's generation that need to be more positive, and that don't worry, good things will come, and that our generation's the best, has the most opportunities of any other, and that nothing goes wrong for our generation.
You do have the most opportunities, but you're also watching doors close too. So
I would say, this is partly personal. But I have had far more doors closed on me than any other member of my family. Like across
that means
many
means you had far more doors in all likelijhood too.
Yeah, because
not really.
To quote my friend with massive personalities, what's it? Yes, our generation has the most opportunities. Opportunities to get drafted, that is, at this point.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure they'll do that.
In the nicest way, I would suggest if you're not worried about that, join the reserves now, because then you can at least pick which service you're drafted into.
Look, I've got HGV license, I already know.
Yeah,
and depending how things work out, the Navy may not be a safe one. I said, depending on how things work out with some of my concerns, the Navy may not be a safe one.
I wasn't saying the Navy was safe. I'm just picking it because at least I have good food with me. in the nicest way.
You get to shower regularly.
In a ship, I don't have to deal with ration packs. Okay?
Some of
nothing wrong with Russian
some of the geopolitical moves.
Yeah, there isn't anything wrong. I just don't want to live on them for long.
Have me a little concerned the first use of the United States Navy in anger since World War II against actual navies could be in the Atlantic Basin.
Excuse me.
I feel like we're very, very...
I think that's remote. I think that's remote, but the fact that is a chance...
Can we just resolve things in the game of chess?
Certainly
I
do think it quite.
I didn't mention any partisan
about
politics.
basing rights at the moment. I think a lot of it's about posturing for basing rights, honestly. From the way it's been
we already have everything we want from Greenland on basing.
Yeah. This gets a bit goofy.
My gut feeling is it's a personal want to have increased the size of the United States.
Is it bad I just laugh at all the comments? Is it bad I just laugh at all the comments of other nations?
He could grant statehood to Puerto Rico.
I know, it's just... No.
Well, the better one would be Guam, but...
Yeah, and Guam.
Guam and the Northern Marianas.
The problem is that that proposal has two big flaws. One, they're already U.S. territories. Two, they're going to change the voting...
I mean, so would Canada.
And there is a reason why...
Never mind me.
Actually,
the various proposals for statehood for Puerto Rico and D.C. and other territories never go anywhere.
Guam probably Wouldn't. That's the fun part, because so much of the local population is military.
Where is it? Not poison.
So they'd be voting in their home states anyways.
No, not the Marines.
But anyways, where
Who's
were
next?
we?
There we go.
Okay, so after that thoroughly depressing dive into the modern world, and please, I really don't want to fucking think about it because I'm staring down the barrel of.
There you go, Rusted. In regards to next territories Trump wants to try and claim.
I'm staring down the barrel of the escalation towards the actual end of history. Not an end of history and that was a choice doctrine.
You're not.
No, we're not.
No.
Fleet, that's not how this works.
Hatchington. Why?
Oh, what? The one of what? The first one poster recently there. Yeah, no, that one's been. Runon, that's been making. Right. There are multiple servers I am on which have no relation to Clark or the dry dock, and that has been spreading to them.
Yeah.
The Dr. Clark.
That one is actually making the rounds on just random servers.
The Giga Chad Clark?
Yes, the Giga Chad Clark.
Hatchington.
What a timeline.
Why?
I guess.
You know, at least it's the Giga Chad Clark that's spreading and not any of mine. I'm glad. I'm happy.
At least you might get to see the world go from history and return to prehistory.
Unlikely.
But frankly, I welcome a nuclear war at this point.
Whoa, that is not.
Let's not go there.
No. I want to remind. Hang on. I want to remind people of something that Moo just put in chat. Our parents and grandparents lived life expecting to die in a nuclear war before the year 2000. And they did fine. I think we can do fine too.
That's an excellent point.
Living was better back then.
That's an excellent point, Cyclic. Well said. Honestly,
I think we can figure something out.
Apart from, I would actually say the mentality has changed a lot since then.
Then maybe the mentality needs to change again.
That's not how that works.
Mentality changes as the way of living changes. It's how human society works. It will change again.
Yeah, honestly,
I'm not saying it needs to change back, but it will change again.
I'm just going to say this. We're honestly looking at the breaking of a lot of the what we've considered the conventional.
We're watching an anomaly in human history break.
Yes, and normality reassert itself. As hard as that is to believe, the Cyclic is right. The years from 1991 through to about the mid-2020s, heck, even earlier than that, you might argue, have been an abnormality in human history. And we are seeing...
they?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, they have.
It was a unipolar world.
For the first
that is
time.
Incredibly rare. Let alone a unipolar world where you have such utter dominance. Where one nation can literally, in the blink of an eye, end other nations if they were to so choose.
And also a period with essentially no great power conflict.
Yes.
I would actually say to some degree that has happened in the past. It wouldn't quite be a blink of an eye, but there has definitely been times where nations have been strong to just wipe others off the face of the map in very quick periods.
In a completely unipolar world, where they are completely unchallenged, and an alliance of other nations cannot even hope to challenge them.
In some degrees,
That's
yes.
rare.
It's rare,
it's rare, which is what I'm saying. It's incredibly rare to have that.
So it's on a global scale. It's a global scale, not a regional scale. And that's the thing is, previously we've had these examples, they've been regional. I'd also add that the thing is, this is coming after World War II, which was a very interesting conflict in terms of the way the world aligned itself, and then the Cold War, when the world was a bipolar world. But ultimately,
which in and of itself is rare.
The threat of mutually assured destruction meant it was actually the Cold War was unnaturally peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
Because both sides tried to keep a track on the things to stop them flaring up into massive wars because of the risk of mutually assured destruction. So in many ways, the idea that the problem we have is that people thought that the world was going to be unipolar and was going to be peaceful. after the end of the Cold War. And that was the stupid thing, because it wasn't. At no point was it going to end up being unipolar. It was always going to end up being multipolar. It was just a short aberration whilst all the sides were sort of reorganizing themselves.
Very quickly, Knight, the US... Saying the US would struggle to beat China is far too black and white. It is far too much a black and white statement.
In the nicest way, the Chinese economy doesn't survive if they're cut off from global trade because of the way their economy works.
The other night.
And also, there's the whole blow up the Three Gorges Dam, and oh dear, they're good.
That's a nuclear threshold for them.
That's just basically purely trying to massacre civilians for the sake of massacring civilians. Which
I don't think any nation would look at that.
You don't need to do that. The Chinese economy is so structured as an exporting economy in order to sustain itself that if you cut off its ability to import energy and export manufactured goods, it ceases to work very quickly because of the way they've set up their economy. Because you must remember, one of the things they have to provide their people is
food.
Larson,
it's totally, it's importing food, but it's also it's total employment they've got to provide.
Yes, but
yes,
that's part of the
Larson, we do not. We have 48 ICBM actually less now. ICBM interceptors.
And also, Larson, that's like walking into a firefight with a level 2 vest. You might stop a couple of them.
Then they show up with a rifle.
Sorry, Yuki just entirely broke this sort of a dense conversation with a 40k meme that is unfortunately entirely too accurate.
Yeah, let's put it like this. I mean, the Chinese have massively expanded the nuclear arsenal in a couple of years, from where it used to be. Never mind where it'll be in, say, 2035. So frankly, if we were actually to try and get serious about strategic missile defense, it would be a whole other scale than anything we've done in the past. It would be like SDI 2.0, which granted, the current administration seems to be angling for. Whether or not that sticks around, we will have to see.
Not really. They keep talking about Iron Dome for the United States, and I don't think they really understand that. I don't think they're necessarily getting what that means, because there are some people who are talking about that being an SDI. There are also obviously people about it being an
executive order in the RFI that was put out by
the RFIs are coming out from the Missile Defense
Agency.
It is
explicitly a space-based, full spectrum capability. Like they want to go all the way, which I will say is kind of unfortunate, because given how partisan politics are, it will probably not survive the administration. But it is one of those. There is actually a debate that needs to happen as to whether or not we do that. And given that we are heading into a tripolar world in terms of large strategic arsenals, where frankly there will not be another allied large nuclear arsenal to balance out the U.S. having to deter both China and Russia at the same time, and we do not have the capacity, unfortunately, to expand our own strategic arsenal sufficiently to deter that purely with our own nuclear deterrent, which is what we relied on in the past with the Soviets, right? So we may have to bulk up our own missile defense capability in the first place just to survive, frankly. And that's not even accounting for the fact that the Chinese may also be looking at a large-scale strategic defense capability as well. So
the question I'm always tempted to ask, and this is going to sound terrible, but I'm one of those people who does work on conventional deterrence and strategic deterrence. At a certain point, if you've got enough firepower to blow up the world multiple times, why do you need more?
Well, from the U.S. perspective, it's explicitly because we need to have the ability to engage in damage limitation to enforce our extended deterrence over our allies in order to make sure that is credible. So we can actually, so the fact that we will say we will actually escalate to nuclear war over Japan is credible because we can actually take that risk without guarantee of our own destruction, right? Otherwise, that is essentially you have to. Otherwise, you just don't have the certainty of that credibility, right? You're sort of playing in the margins of what's the phrase that gets used?
Just good enough?
No, it's.
There's a specific phrase.
Yeah, but it's because essentially it's like rocking the boat, right? You're trying to convince somebody that you are like the U.S. had to because this was our problem earlier in the Cold War. The United States had to be able to convince the Soviets that we would absolutely 100% without flinching absolutely trade the New York, D.C., Los Angeles, every American city for Berlin to stop the Soviets from taking over Berlin or Germany conventionally, right? We had to convince them that we would go nuclear first.
And we know now the Soviets didn't believe it.
Well, well, this is the problem. We had we were playing over the uncertainty, and the uncertainty was that we we would do this, and even if we couldn't be certain that we would, there was the risk of uncontrolled escalation, right? And that would guarantee it, which was really just not very credible. There was, if you have an uncertainty that it might go, but it might not, then you have an uncertainty that it might not, and that's not very credible for a deterrent that you have to rely on to keep your allies safe, especially when you're dealing with something as completely destructive as nuclear war. Therefore, you need to have that additional capability to be able to engage in like damage limitation of a significant scale to the point where you can credibly make that threat, and your opponent has to now contend with this. It would be much easier for us if we were not covering our for the United States, from an American perspective, it would be much easier if we didn't have to cover allies with a deterrent, right? Like if we could just play like a France, where it's basically just, if you make a nuclear threat against France, we have our own nukes. It's a guaranteed secondary strike. That's easy. That's easy deterrence, right? We don't, because of the way our alliance structure works, the United States has not had the luxury of engaging in easy deterrence. It has to be the hard, credible kind.
And it's a very specific geostrategic decision to help support the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty.
Yeah.
I would,
because if we don't do that, whew.
I also want to cycle back to the statement about polarization. The one thing the defense projects tend to be so pork-barreled out and tend to attract such a diverse array of, I'll be legalistic and say lobbying interests, that they tend to not get messed with as long as there's not very highly visible cost overrun like we saw with Zumwalt.
Yeah, the funny thing is the Navy canceled Zumwalt over Congress's objections on that. But the thing with an SDI type thing, that in and of itself is very political. You can look down the aisle and you can generally take a guess at where people will fall on large-scale strategic ballistic missile defense, whether they think it's wildly escalatory and dangerous or whether they think it's prudent in the US. It's not always true, but it's a general rule.
Yeah. I think it'd be one of those things of, if it gets passed, then it's okay. But otherwise, it's going to be the same budgetary fight that we've seen every year since, 2008, 2010?
2000.
I would say
2000-ish.
When you're talking about
missile defense.
With missile defense in particular, it is unfortunately a political thing, right? Because it has traditionally been pushed by Republican governments. Democrats have traditionally opposed it. You saw this with the Reagan effort, the same with the Bush effort, right? So it's unfortunate. There is an aspect of it being divided on political lines. And likewise, there is also there's always been a very strong opposition to it in terms of how to phrase this, the concepts of deterrence and arms control and such. Going back earlier in the Cold War, like to the 1970s, part of the reason we had the anti-ballistic missile treaty is because it was just legitimately believed that it was destabilizing to have missile defenses, and frankly, any kind of civil defense measure was destabilizing, and we should be vulnerable to complete destruction from Soviet missiles, because the Soviets would likewise obviously reciprocate this once they understood the concept of deterrence, right? Because we were trying to get them to understand that, and we were trying to have them mirror us. So there's that aspect of it as well. This is part of why there continues to be such an opposition to missile defense, and there's a very determined lobby that essentially will do anything it can to undermine them. A lot of the, I guess, part of the issues we had in the 2000s, right, with missile defense, where you had groups that would go out that would explicitly make assumptions about missile tests and say, this failed because it didn't do this properly, whatever. And it was all like classified materials that the U.S. government could not really easily comment on and say, well, actually, no, the test was successful because of X, Y, Z. And thus it had no real ability to, in the public sphere, go after these complaints, but these complaints gained lots of traction. And it essentially was very successful in undermining the whole effort, right? And the Russians also love to play off of the fears of this with any kind of missile defense measure in Europe, saying, "Oh well, these are explicitly anti-Russian," and they basically, even though we literally went to the effort of giving them briefings on exactly why the missile defenses that we're placing that were geared towards other threats could not actually threaten the Russian strategic defense, strategic arsenal. Right, that they just simply ignored this and kind of just continued to bitch on their lines because they knew that would be effective in terms of influencing the public debate in the West.
I'd say the trouble in that argument I always pointed out is the fact that actually, if you look around Moscow and various parts of Russia, you will find the single greatest concentration of anti-ballistic missile systems in the world.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely rules for thee and not for me.
And you will find subway systems built to act as shelters. You will find, and not just in Moscow, but they're in Kyiv, and they've been extremely useful for Ukraine of late.
Yeah. It's built in all sorts of cities across the former Soviet Union.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that also points to something that Moo just mentioned. They were never interested in that.
No.
They were interested in absolute nuclear superiority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and unfortunately in the modern world as well, it's very common for the arms control community to essentially have this idea that, we should disarm unilaterally because then obviously our adversaries around the world will follow through, and it falls on us to do so first, of course.
Oh, yeah. I
understand, Mark.
On a regular basis.
Unfortunately, this is the problem with modern stuff. It does get rather depressing quick. You haven't heard Cyclic talk. You probably haven't heard Cyclic talking about the Royal Navy recently.
Or just British procurement generally.
Yeah. If you really want
to, I will say my statements about the Royal Navy don't generally transfer to the service personnel.
Yes, I know. That's why I'm more just saying Royal Navy. I should have said Royal Naval procurements and their ships. Not necessarily the actual bit, because I know
I'm more concerned about the fleet
once this evening. I don't need made sick myself. Please just let's move on.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say we're already at like 3 hours 20, and normally Fleet wants to end things about 3 hours. So
you said 10 minutes. We went on for more.
I mean, it's fine. We always just walk over Fleet anyways. So
indeed, but
this is my life.
But a Cyclic, I
say no. So I mean, to be fair, we tap over Fleets.
Cyclic. Then the true elegance.
I feel in brew ships where it's like, why don't we open up the questions again? No, God, please, no. Why don't we open up the questions
as long as nobody's wearing golf cleats as we walk over Fleet, I think he'll be fine.
Oh, by the way, Runo, someone came especially to see you. Your favorite God Emperor, Donald Rumsfeld.
Yeah, I see that miserable son of a gun.
Son of a gun.
Dragon, I'll
That's
get
far more polite than I would be.
No, please. No.
I think he probably would. Let's be honest, this is
right.
Okay.
He's a bit of a masochist. I am not a masochist.
I don't know. You're like
then why are you letting us walk over you?
Because
you have Hoche and the French flag.
I have just shut
as your profile picture when you are a Brit interested in naval matters on a British naval Discord.
Oh, and you also
you're not a masochist.
You also gave Petchington your seal of approval.
Who?
Petchington.
You gave Petchington your seal of approval.
That was a long, long time ago, and I keep forgetting to remove it. To be fair, it doesn't do much anymore. I keep forgetting it exists. It's a relic of a.
To me, that sounds like a challenge to Petchington.
I know, right? Yeah, that was a mistake.
That was the thing of that just came out. I just went, that's a challenge.
Fleet seal of approval is a relic of a time where every admiral had a seal of approval, and it was to let people that we liked into secret chat.
Yes, I know. I had to recently.
Well, now he's just gone and said
it. Well, I said relic of a past. It's not been the case for years.
Secret chat.
Everyone knows it exists. It's an open secret at this point.
Just because it's an open secret doesn't mean you talk about it.
First rule
what are we? What are we? The Pentagon?
By any chance, Clark?
No.
You're
about to find out what Fight Club is, though.
Because I've just noticed in the announcements channel, Drac has posted a very similar job to what you posted earlier.
Drac posted it because, to be fair, it wasn't us who found it.
It appeared in the ship shape WhatsApp group.
Speaking of which, I need to try and get it.
Boy.
And Tribals, Battles, and Darings, for that matter.
Well, this happens. Oh, that means Drax active on Discord, which means he might be about to see.
No, he probably would. No,
he's not free right now. I've already checked.
No, that wasn't what I was talking about. Funnily enough, I was not referring to ramblings. Funnily enough, I don't always refer to ramblings. I do not always refer to ramblings.
Saying it multiple times does not make it any more convincing.
Look, anyway,
it just makes you sound, somewhat disingenuous.
Suspicious?
Almost as frequently as you refer to the Hosh, and how she was a good ship.
I said,
in your opinion,
acceptable, not good. There is a difference.
I wouldn't say acceptable at all.
I'll check the logs.
I'm fairly sure you said good.
I'm sure you said good before.
It has evolved from equivalent to her peers to acceptable versus generational opponents behind her to just about getting the French out of Je ne Colle.
Somebody get me a shifting goalpost meme.
Yes, it literally is.
Yeah.
I do need to get my daily done, Larson.
Right,
maybe.
Okay, so thank you everyone for coming to Fleet's Random Ramblings, where Fleet rambles about things, or more accurately as it seems now, Fleet gets his show taken off him and it runs off into the horizon.
While the whole show takes the piss out of him the entire length of the show.
Yes. Well, think of it this way, Fleet. It's still educational and entertainment.
It is.
You are technically still in control.
Yes, I am technically still in control.
I disagree with that technicality. I don't think he ever was in control. I keep saying this.
I keep
if you
telling
want a less chaotic
this modern era of ramblings where there are large co-host bodies and regular guest speakers has only been a thing for since you joined, Dr. Clark.
Oh, even before that. Actually,
you mean I took it over?
No, you didn't take it over.
Actually, that was a statement that was made. But...
Although, to be fair, you have been showing up pretty much every week since I asked you to be a guest. And I didn't expect that.
Rumsfeld.
I do not see problems with this.
Rumsfeld. Just because you don't want to look at it does not make it stealth.
I'm sorry.
I don't know.
According to the SCP Foundation, it actually does, though. Incognito has it that it causes you to have adverse effects when looking at it. Forces you to not perceive it.
What rating do we give Hosh? Is it a Euclid, do you think?
Oh, no.
Or is it a Kita?
Oh,
no, God. It's safe, remember.
Is it?
Yes. Because safety rating is not how dangerous it is, it's how hard it is to contain. And luckily, it's safe because there's one person on the planet that's infected by it, and we have him contained.
Oh no! Come on, you didn't go there. You didn't go there. No. What does that make me? SCP Hosh-B?
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, you'd be Hosh-F.
No, it would be SCP.
Makes you patient 0000000.
Would it not actually be -A? Because normally it's A is the first exterior thing to it, so it probably would actually probably be -A.
No, -A is specifically for if the object changes form.
No,
the -A will be.
Because I have also seen other ones.
I'm really tempted to change Fleet's name to Hosh Pandemic Patient 0.
To be fair, I've changed his name in my channel to Boop.
No, I draw a line. No, yep, I am not the Boop. No, don't you Cyclic.
Yep,
no, I am
not
not
Boop. There was a poll
Boop.
about it earlier requesting that it would be done.
Do not boop the fleet.
Yeah.
Do not boop the fleet.
It was unanimous.
Is not the Boop.
Yeah.
Do not boop the fleet. Fleet is not boopable. Fleet is not boopable. I am not booping. I do not boop. This is not.
By the way, leave it to Rambling 69 for a most chaotic one.
Yeah, honestly.
I think Phoenix has had to mute his mic from laughter, but
that's understandable.
You know, this is where I get off.
Phoenix,
Thank
not
you.
Fleet.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
You getting off?
Do not say that phrase. Do not say that phrase.
Particularly after you just went through that, you do not.
Why do you always...
You said you weren't a masochist, and now you're saying you're getting off?
As in, I am getting off the podcast.
Every week. Fleet, you do this every week. You say something so completely stupid and phrasing, and it's nearly always at the end.
I believe
Fleet of Oceans, am now going to use the streaming software on my computer to end the stream, involving various participants who have partaken in it. And I'm speaking in this manner so there can be no misconstruing.
You're making it worse for yourself, but please continue.
You could have just said terminating.
Sounds like you've organized a party, which I was definitely not a member of.
Thank you.
Honestly, I just don't have stamina
I'd like to thank the members of the audience for coming today. Oh, for fuck's sake!
What?
I wasn't even going to call that one out, but then you did it for yourself.
No, I just realised what I said. I would like to thank the various members of the audience for turning on their computers and attending the live stream.
Turning on, see again.
Turning on, please.
I would also.
Why are you adding shit?
I
didn't know you were a part of the Mechanicus.
I would also like to thank the various co-hosts of the.
We're not recording now, right?
Of the podcast. Ruinon, thank you for coming. Phoenix, thank you for being here. Ace, Dr. Alexander Clark is, as always, welcome to the Ramblings. Dragon and Foxo, the regular co-host.
Always a pleasure, Boop.
Moe, I'm not. I'm just gonna give up. Moe Waifu, thank you very much. Guy, thank you for being here. Cyclic as well, thank you for being here. And Phoenix, the two resident modern day experts. Right, I'm gonna go over there into.